Chapter 22. Who didn't know how to show off pompously? When the middle-aged man heard what Wang Xian said, he was slightly shocked. What did you say? You have better pearls? The middle-aged man looked at him with doubts and started chuckling soon after. In a demeaning and mocking way he said, Brat, do you even know what a pearl is? What are natural and wild pearls? Do you know about the colors and quality differentiation? I didn't find out about them in the past, so I don't know about that. However, I have some pearls with me, and they are indeed better than those pearls this beautiful lady is wearing. As he spoke, he took out the pearls from his pocket one after another. Natural pearls. As for their condition, I'm not too sure about that. Nonetheless, these are definitely much better than yours. What pearls do you have there? The middle-aged man saw the pearls in Wang Xian's hands and was filled with doubt. However, nonchalance was written all over his face. Natural pearls are valuable treasures. How could yours be real? Wang Xian's lip was slightly drawn upon hearing what the middle-aged man said. We will know once we get them to appraise the pearls. Wang Xian headed over to the service attendant at the cabinet and asked, Does this shop collect pearls? The service attendant looked at Wang Xian with astonishment. She nodded her head and replied, Yeah, we do, but we only collect pearls in good condition. In that case, please help me take a look at these and give me an appraisal of the value, Wang Xian said to the service attendant. All right, mister, please wait a minute. I'll go and get my manager. The service attendant saw the pearls in his hands and immediately went to the back of the shop to call the manager over. These pearls are really huge. At this moment, the beautiful lady just beside him was looking at the pearls in Wang Xian's hands in astonishment. Wang Xian smiled and answered carefreely, 20 millimeters. Just slightly larger than those you are wearing. These pearls are round and without flaws. I believe they are worth at least several hundreds of thousands. The beautiful lady's mouth gaped open. The middle-aged man's face took on a ghastly expression and he said, We aren't even sure if they are real. If they are real, you must be really lucky. Hee hee. Wang Xian chuckled, These are just some pearls. So what if they are real? It's just several hundreds of thousands. Showing off. Wang Xian was openly doing it in front of him. As compared to the middle-aged man's subtle way of doing it, his way was more direct. Several hundreds of thousands is already really expensive, the beautiful lady beside him commented. It isn't. It's just several hundreds of thousands. Wang Xian shook his head as he remarked. The way he was acting currently was very similar to a property tycoon. After starting my business for some years, I still have some wealth. Awesome. To start a business when you are still so young, the beautiful lady replied in astonishment. This caused the middle-aged man beside her to take on a ghastly expression. What the hell? This ordinarily dressed brat sure is great at boasting. Sir, please let our manager take a look at your pearls. At this moment, the service attendant walked over and spoke to him. Wang Xian nodded his head and handed the pearls to the female manager on the other side of the cabinet. When the manager took over the pearls from his hands, her face was filled with bewilderment. She immediately took out a magnifying glass to take a closer look. Natural pearls. These are natural pearls. The manager was shocked. After which, she took out a ruler to measure. 20 millimeters natural pearls without any trace of impurities. Round and without any flaws. This is simply unbelievable. These pearls are of the highest quality, even among the highest quality pearls. The manager couldn't contain her astonishment. Oh, of course. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised. Wang Xian had checked the value of 20 millimeters natural pearls online, and they were really valuable. Moreover, if the pearls were made into a string of necklace, the value would be even higher. Mister, are you looking to sell these pearls? The manager looked at Wang Xian and asked, frantically. I'm selling. May I know how much you could offer me? Wang Xian nodded his head. The manager frowned. This was the first time she'd seen such precious pearls and therefore she couldn't determine a price at the moment. $500K. Mister, are you all right with the offer? The manager threw out an offer price. $500K? When Wang Xian heard this offer price, he was rather satisfied, but he didn't agree to it immediately. I'm selling quite a few of them. Is it possible to increase the price a little more? What? Mister, do you have more pearls with such grade? The manager looked at him with astonishment. Wang Xian smiled and took out all the pearls from his pocket. There were a total of 16 pearls with 4 white, 4 black, 4 gold and 4 pink pearls. Each pearl was almost the same size and gave off a mesmerizing glow. The manager's eyes popped wide open. Oh my gosh! You have so many and every single one of them is of the highest quality. 16 pearls could be used to make an entire set of pearl jewelry, or into a pearl necklace. I believe that the offer price could be increased a little more. Wang Xian looked at the shocked expression of the manager and spoke with a giggling smile. Wow, these pearls are so beautiful. The beautiful lady took a look at the pearl and jade jewelry on her before looking at the pearls in Wang Xian's hand. They were completely of a different grade. With so many pearls, wouldn't it mean that these are worth at least $8 million? The beautiful lady's eyes popped wide open and her jaw dropped. Wang Xian glanced at the beautiful lady and middle-aged man and said, yeah, these are worth at least $8 million. However, if it's just $8 million, I clearly wouldn't sell them. Hey uncle, if you are interested and can offer me a suitable price, I can sell them to you. As he spoke, the corners of his mouth arced upwards. The middle-aged man couldn't help but feel his mouth twitching. He had a heavy expression on his face and kept silent. Mr. Deep Sea Jewelry would like to purchase your pearls. At this moment, the manager got a little flustered upon hearing what Wang Xian said. Top-grade pearls had always been in demand, but there might not be a supply for it. Moreover, natural pearls were hard to come by. If she could purchase these 16 top-grade pearls and make them into a set of jewelry or even just a pearl necklace, it would definitely become the attraction of deep-sea jewelry. Mister, please wait a minute. I'm not authorized to make decisions for transactions in the range of over $10 million. Please wait a moment while I report this to the headquarters. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. Please come in. The manager opened the small door leading to the back of the cabinet in a hurry and said to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head. When he walked to the position of the middle-aged man, he paused. He lifted his hand, patted his shoulder and said, Uncle, if you wish to woo a beautiful lady, you've got to work hard. After all, there are many rich young men nowadays and you are already so old. Money is one aspect, but you have to be sincere too. As Wang Xian spoke, he put on a demeanor of an elder educating a younger guy. After which, Wang Xian headed to the waiting room in the back of Deep Sea Jeweler shop. Who didn't know how to show off pompously nowadays? Even if you couldn't, you would at least know how to boast, right? However, to show off in front of others, one would still need to have some capital. Wang Xian believed that he still had the capital to do so currently. Whoever wishes to show off in front of me has to assess themselves first. The middle-aged man was extremely displeased. After seeing one who seemed to be hesitating, his displeasure was even more apparent. After all, he was already over 40 years old. The only advantage he had was that he had family assets of more than $10 million. Chapter 23, Acquaintance. Sir, please wait for a moment. My company is sending someone down. Please have some tea while waiting. The manager from the Deep Sea Jewelry poured and handed a cup of tea zealously to him in the waiting room. Wang Xian smiled and nodded, no problem. I'll just wait here. No hurry. Great. Wang Xian made himself comfortable in the waiting room as he felt funny when he thought of the middle-aged man whom he'd met just now. Is the seller inside? After 20 minutes, Wang Xian heard a girl from the outside. Sir, sorry to keep you waiting. This is our in charge from the company. Just then, a pretty girl who was in professional attire followed behind the manager as the manager introduced her to Wang Xian. Hi. Wang Xian stood up and stretched out his hand. Eh. Wang Xian gasped as he looked at the familiar girl in front of him. The girl before him was slightly shocked to see Wang Xian too. Wang Xian, she raised her eyebrows and asked. Chairman Lan. Wang Xian did not expect an acquaintance to be here. Moreover, she was a senior in the school Lan Qingyue. Lan Qingyue was the vice chairman of the student council at the University of Rivertown. Wang Xian had met her a few times before. However, Lan Qingyue was not expecting Wang Xian to be the seller who wanted to sell the premium grade pearls. She knew a fair bit about Wang Xian. He was a year 1 student, and they'd met a few times when he was looking for some part-time jobs in school. She remembered the guy in front of her was working for the entire year, even during his school holiday. He part-timed in school and outside of school too. For quite some time as the vice chairman of the student council, she took on the chairman role for the Students' Affairs Club and was responsible for the part-time work in school. Back then Wang Xian was part-timing non-stop, so she was quite familiar with his family's situation. His parents were not around, and he was left living with his younger sister. Hence, he had to be responsible for his sister's livelihood. Back at that time Lan Qingyue had a deep impression of him as she had due respect for this guy. What a coincidence! Wang Xian grinned and said to her. Yes. Director Lan, do you know this gentleman? The manager asked in astonishment. Schoolmates. Lan Qingyue nodded with a smile. That will be even better, Director Lan. Both of you take a seat, and I'll get you some water, said the manager quickly. The rumors in the school are real. Upon seeing the manager's attitude, Wang Xian thought of the rumors in the school saying that her family owned a significant listed company, and they were an affluent family. In the future, she would be taking over the large-scale family business. But he did not expect that she was already handling her family business before she turned year 3. Wang Xian, I never expected you would be the seller, said Lan Qingyue indifferently to Wang Xian. Wang Xian chuckled and checked out Lan Qingyue, who was in office attire. She gave off a cool and distant vibe. She had a great figure, but she was the type who seemed remote and aloof. In school, she was known as the Ice Queen. She and Guan Shuqing were 2 different characters. Guan Shuqing was a goddess that was friendly yet reserved. But Lan Qingyue was a goddess who kept her distance at arm's length. I was not expecting you either. Can you show me the pearls? Lan Qingyue peered at the pearl on the table. Of course. Wang Xian nodded and showed her. Lan Qingyue placed 4 pearls of different colors in her palm. This is gorgeous, she exclaimed. 16 pearls could make 1 or 2 sets of jewelry or a string of necklace. I wonder how much you are asking for, asked Lan Qingyue. Name me your price. Wang Xian smiled and replied. How about $600,000 for one? Lan Qingyue asked with a grin. Deal. Wang Xian nodded without asking for a higher price, as $600,000 for a pearl was already a remarkable price. 16 pearls would bring him $9. 6 million. With the $75 million that he had, he would have over $10 million in total. Within a few days, Wang Xian turned into a millionaire. I thought you would raise your price. Lan Qingyue was a little stunned by Wang Xian's unconditional agreement. You are making me uneasy. Let's make it around some $10 million. Thank you. Wang Xian laughed and nodded. Can I ask where you got these pearls from? Lan Qingyue asked with her curiosity piqued. From the sea, Wang Xian answered with a grin. If I have more pearls in the future, I'll come and look for you. Sure. Upon hearing that, Lan Qingyue was slightly stunned. Can pearls be found so easily? Let's add each other on WeChat. I will look for you when I have more pearls, Wang Xian told her. Great. Lan Qingyue nodded and smiled. Let's go to the bank to transfer the money. Sure. Wang Xian nodded and followed her out. The maximum limit for online bank transfers was set at 5 million. Hence, they needed to go to the bank to do a transfer instead. Before they could exit through the door, 3 juveniles walked into Deep Sea Jewelry. 3 of them were wearing formal clothing in the summer. When they saw Wang Xian and Lan Qingyue, they exchanged gazes with each other. Don't move and don't make a noise. Otherwise, I will kill both of you. Suddenly, the 3 of them aimed black handguns drawn out from their pockets at them. Lan Qingyue and Wang Xian were stunned immediately as they looked ghastly at them. Close the store now. Hurry. Otherwise, I'll kill both of you immediately. One of them pointed the handgun at one of the salesgirl's head. Ah! That salesgirl raised her hands shockingly. All the salespeople and the manager behind the counters in the shop got a fright. Stop screaming and close the door now. Don't think of staying alive if the police are here. That juvenile barked ferociously at everyone. No, don't kill me. The salesgirl walked to the door and shut it while shuddering in fear. There were no other customers in the store at this time except for 6 salesgirls and a manager. Once the door was closed, people from the outside had a limited view of whatever happened in the shop. Squat down on the floor. Hurry. The robber who was pointing his gun at Wang Xian shouted to everyone. Wang Xian was slightly stupefied as he did not expect he would encounter a robbery. After all, robbery was not a common thing in modern day. Squat down. The robber in front of Wang Xian barked at him again. Wang Xian looked at the shiny black muzzle and squatted down. Lan Qingyue squatted down and stared at the 3 robbers with a horrified look on her face. Quick, take all the jewelry now. A robber pointed the handgun towards Wang Xian and the rest of the people. Okay. The other robber took out a hammer hidden in his clothes and smashed the glass counters. Chapter 24 Robbery. Ring ring ring. When the hammer landed on the glass, the security alarm of the jewelry shop went off. Hurry. Damn it, the alarm system is activated. The security personnel will be here at any moment. A robber roared loudly. Boss, the glass here is too solid. The robber with the hammer growled softly with a ghastly expression when he noticed only a few cracks appeared on the glass after hammering it. Leave this to me. Another young man looked across with a vicious expression. He took over the hammer and the veins on his fist were bulging out. Bam! The hammer landed on the glass and smashed open a hole directly. He continued to smash the glass with the hammer. This is bad. The anti-bullet glass has been smashed open. Lan Qingyue, who had been squatting down and paying attention to the situation, was shocked at what she discovered. Shut your mouth, the robber who had a gun and was standing beside Lan Qingyue roared. When he saw she had a piece of jewelry around her neck, a hint of joy surfaced on his face. He extended his hand over and demanded, "Give me this." No. Lan Qingyue saw the robber reaching towards her and immediately took 2 steps back. In the process, she fell back and sat onto the floor. Huh. I didn't expect that. You are rather pretty. When the robber saw Lan Qingyue's face, he was amazed and revealed a perverted expression. Don't move or I will shoot open a hole on your body. Hee. The robber pointed the gun at Lan Qingyue. Damn it. We don't have time for this. Just keep a close watch on them. The young man hammering the glass counter roared at the other robber with the gun after hearing the commotion. At the same time, he grabbed the jewelry in the glass cabinet rapidly. As for the other robber, he was pointing his gun at another service attendant and ordering him to open the cabinet with their keys. Boss, she has a top-grade jade pendant on her. I'll get it. This robber seemed to be very wary of the young man who'd shouted at him previously. With a hideous look on his face, he reached out and grabbed towards Lan Qingyue. If you resist any further, I'll kill you. No. Lan Qingyue had completely lost her usual cold demeanor. She protected the jade pendant around her neck helplessly and seemed determined to protect something extremely important in her heart. Damn it. You are seeking your own death. The robber reached over directly and grabbed towards Lan Qingyue's neck. With a forceful pull, he ripped the necklace over. Give it back. Lan Qingyue felt pain cruising through her neck, but still extended her hand over to try to get the pendant back. Damn you, bitch. The robber growled angrily as he looked at the 2 trails of blood on his arm caused by Lan Qingyue's nails. I'm going to strip you naked. He reached over and started tearing Lan Qingyue's clothes apart. TSSS. Oh. Lan Qingyue's professional working attire was ripped apart immediately. Her shoulders and fair skin were revealed. Huh. When Wang Xian saw the robber trying to reach over once again after ripping open Lan Qingyue's clothes, he frowned. He covered Lan Qingyue in his embrace, stared at the robber and said, Don't go any further. You have already taken what you wanted. Brat, are you trying to play the hero here? Hee. That robber pointed the gun at Wang Xian and sneered. Wang Xian stared at the robber and didn't complete his sentence out of fear. Lan Qingyue was in his embrace, completely petrified. I'm going to strip her naked right in front of you and let you take a look. Ha. That robber laughed hideously. As he spoke, he pointed the gun at Wang Xian with one hand while reaching towards Lan Qingyue with the other hand. Lan Qingyue held tightly to Wang Xian's arm out of fear. Damn it. Wang Xian looked at the arrogant robber reaching over his hand with a hideous smile. At this moment, A cold and vicious intent flashed past Wang Xian's eyes. Crack, crack. At this instant, Wang Xian suddenly took action. He reached his hand over and grabbed towards the robber's arm. His hands were like dragon claws and sank directly onto the robber's arms. Exerting some force, Wang Xian broke the robber's arm. Bam! He lifted his leg and kicked it towards the robber's chest. The strong force sent the robber into the wall directly as the robber lost consciousness from the pain. Scumbag, incompetent bugger. The other two robbers heard the commotion and pulled out their guns immediately. Wang Xian saw the two robbers pointing their guns at him. At that instant, cold sweat was breaking out from his forehead. Lan Qingyue looked at the robbers pointing their guns at them in horror. She was desolated. Damn! Bang! Bang! When she heard the gunshots, she could feel the fear of death engulfing her. However, at this very moment, a figure pounced onto her and gripped her tightly in his embrace. Ouch! Wang Xian could feel the intense pain spreading from the back. However, after the pain sensation subsided, he didn't feel any misery. My body can withstand bullets. Wang Xian was surprised. The reason why he wasn't taking action was because the other parties had guns with them. He was afraid that with the durability of his body, it would still be insufficient to withstand a bullet attack. Don't move, he said softly to Lan Qingyue in his arms. Are you all right, Wang Xian? Tears were streaming down Lan Qingyue's face. She heard the two soft gunshots and also the sounds of bullets hitting his back. The guns had silencers installed on them. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have resisted. The jade pendant was a gift from my grandmother when she passed away. I'm sorry, Lan Qingyue said miserably as she thought Wang Xian had been injured by the bullets. It's all right. Wang Xian shook his head. What the hell? Girls are really a drag. If she didn't resist previously, the robber would not have fired. Furthermore, she's even crying out loud now. What if she attracts the attention of the robbers again? Why doesn't she have the demeanor of the Ice Queen? I'm sorry to have let you down. I'm sorry. Lan Qingyue held on to Wang Xian as she cried. Hurry, let's go. 3 minutes had passed and security is coming. We've got to hurry. At this moment, the robber took the bag of jewelry and shouted at the other robber. All right, boss. The two robbers headed to the exit in a hurry. Boss, what should we do with our companion? The robber looked at his companion on the floor and asked anxiously. Incompetent bugger. Leave him here. The boss had a cold expression as he opened the door with force. Hurry, let's go. At this moment, Wang Xian silently pried open Lan Qingyue's grip on his arm. Before Lan Qingyue could react to it, Wang Xian flipped up and landed a punch directly on one of the robbers. Bam! The current Wang Xian had enormous strength. He smashed his punch directly on his back with the robber completely off guard. A crisp sound propagated as the robber fell to the ground with a thud. Bastard, die! The other robber reacted to the situation quicker than Wang Xian had expected him to. Die! That robber threw his punch towards Wang Xian's face with awe. This is bad, he's super strong. Wang Xian was shocked but wasn't fearful. He clenched his fist too and struck towards the robber's head. Bam! He could feel that this robber's punch was heavy and he was very strong. However, the robber was still slightly weaker than him. Crack! A clear and crisp sound propagated as a shocked expression surfaced on the robber's face. Chapter 25 Mighty Physique. Boom! The moment the robber's fist cracked, Wang Xian stomped his foot on his chest. The robber fell onto the shuttered door as he held his chest in pain. Yu, with wide open eyes, he stared at Wang Xian in disbelief. You are a martial artist. Her. Wang Xian was confused by martial artist. Voila! Just then the shutter door was prized from the outside. A team of security guards stormed in with electric batons. What's going on? What happened? A robbery? A fit and well-built middle-aged man asked in a loud voice. Captain Li, someone is here to rob our jewelry shop. The manager acted quickly as he sprinted over and pointed at the three robbers. Subsequently, he scurried to Lan Qingyue and asked, Director Lan, are you all right? Yes, I'm fine. Lan Qingyue seemed to be in a daze. She pulled her clothes together and looked at Wang Xian. I'm fine too. Wang Xian sensed her gaze. He felt the tear in his skin and the bleeding at his back, but it was not anything serious. Given that he owned a dragon body, he should be fully recovered in 1 to 2 days. Director Lan, put this on. The manager quickly took off his jacket and put it on her when he saw the clothes on Lan Qingyue were torn. Okay. Lan Qingyue stood up and walked to Wang Xian. Are you really all right? I saw they shot at you. Let me check your back. I'm fine. Their guns might be fake. The impact wasn't as powerful. Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. Let me see it. Lan Qingyue checked his back and spotted the bloodstains on his white shirt. She covered her mouth. It's bleeding. I'll call the ambulance. You have to get to the hospital now. It's okay. Wang Xian shook his head again and bared his back. Look, it's okay. I guess it's just a slight tear. Yes, he is fine. Just a slight tear. Captain Li took a look and told one of the security guards, call the police now and send them to the station. Manager Huang, check if you have any losses. I'm glad that you are fine. Lan Qingyue was scared stiff as it was her first encounter with a robbery. She felt her heart warming as she looked at the fit and muscular back. She could not stop thinking about the hug just now. We will do the bank transfer tomorrow then. Go back and get some rest. No, it's okay. I'm fine. I better accompany you to the hospital for a checkup. I hope your wound won't get any infection. Lan Qingyue shook her head. It's nothing. The injuries I got from my childhood times were even more serious than this. It was fine then. Wang Xian shook his head and pointed at her clothes. You should get some rest. Your clothes. Lan Qingyue looked down at her clothes and blushed. I will get the company to transfer the money to you today. Sure. Wang Xian was not afraid that Lan Qingyue or Deep Sea Jewelry would repudiate the payment. He saved her and her company big time today. He believed they would not decline to pay that $10 million to him. I still have something going on. Got to go. You better get some rest, said Wang Xian to Lan Qingyue. He waved his hand and walked out. Director Lan, I've already reported this to the CEO. They will be arriving soon. Manager Huang walked over and told Lan Qingyue. They are worried for you. Okay. Lan Qingyue acknowledged briefly as she watched Wang Xian leaving. Manager Huang followed her gaze and looked over. She sighed softly when she thought of the courageous moment performed by the young man just now. If she were any younger, she would also fall for the young and suave man who saved and shielded her from a bullet. Buzz. Just then Lan Qingyue's phone rang. Upon seeing her mother's call, she picked up immediately. What luck I have for encountering a robbery when I'm here just to sell my pearls. After Wang Xian walked out from the jewelry store, he shook his head. However, the fact that his body could block a bullet caught him by surprise. That was a bullet. If I can block a bullet when I'm only at level 2, does that mean I can defend from a sniper rifle or a grenade when I'm at level 3 or 4? Then if I'm at level 8 or 9, will I survive a bomb? I have not even attained the first transformation yet. If I did, wouldn't I be invincible? Wang Xian was thrilled over it. The mightiness of the divine dragon's body beyond his expectations. I wonder where that robber drew his mighty strength from, and what martial artists he was talking about? Wang Xian suddenly thought of the things that the robber had just said. Could there be martial artists in this world? Wang Xian pondered to himself. He looked around and walked to a shopping mall. Sunan Shopping Mall was a large and grand shopping mall that acted as a landmark in the city center. Wang Xian was ready to splurge in the mall. He did not have just $1. 7 million, but he had $11. 7 million now. Even though he has yet to receive the $10 million, it was a done deal. I want to change my phone to the latest model and get 3 sets of branded clothes. Wang Xian walked into a few renowned branded shops and spent more than $50,000 on 3 sets of clothes. Time to go back. Wang Xian looked at the things he'd bought with a satisfied face. He walked out and rode his Harley motorcycle back to school. Even though a Harley motorcycle looks cool, it isn't convenient at all. Should I get a driving license and buy a car? Wang Xian looked at the shopping bags that were hanging on the bike and thought to himself. Forget it, I think I better improve my strength. It's a waste of time learning how to drive. Wang Xian threw his clothes on the bed and dumped all his old clothes away after he came back to his room. Buzz. Just then the phone rang. Wang Xian opened the message sent by his younger sister. Brother, I just knocked off and I'm bored. Xiaomi went for her driving lesson and left me alone. Driving lesson? Wang Xian saw his sister's message and got an idea. Little sis, you can take driving lessons too. I'll transfer you the money for it. As he said this, he transferred $10,000 over to her. Brother, why did you transfer so much money to me? Where did you get the money from? I'm not learning to drive. Xiao Yu saw the $10,000 that her brother had transferred to her and got a shock. I earned some money over here. You can take driving lessons with Xiaomi. I'll wait for you to drive me around. Wang Xian said this to dismiss her sister. He did not tell her the truth. He wanted to buy her a car when she arrived at school. A branded car. Chapter 26. An incident. Bzz. A beautiful girl is giving me a treat. After staying in the dormitory room for an hour plus, Wang Xian received a message from Guan Shuqing, saying that she definitely had to give him a treat today. Wang Xian agreed to it. After the outdoor cooking the previous day, the relationship between the two of them was clearly no longer just about friendship. Wang Xian changed into a set of fine clothing. The pair of white casual shorts and black short-sleeved t-shirts cost $10,000 each. However, these weren't the most extravagant pieces. Wang Xian also took out the Nike shoes that cost $800,000. This pair of Nike shoes was the Nike MAG. Back to the Future 2, a limited release worldwide. He got these shoes from the young man riding the heavy-duty motorcycle, who had bought them overseas to show off to others. In the end, the shoes fell into Wang Xian's hands. Wang Xian had initially wanted to sell them. However, since he had the money currently, he no longer had to sell them and could wear them himself. This pair of shoes was not just filled with technology. Moreover, the design was great and extremely comfortable. It was also a great match for Wang Xian's clothes. After changing into the new clothes and being modified by dragon energy, Wang Xian had a unique aura around him. After parking his Harley at one side of the road, Wang Xian waited by the school gate. Guan Shuqing found a translation job and was about to knock off from work right now. She had asked him to wait for her at the school gate for a moment. At this moment, Wang Xian heard screams of shock. He turned his head over and his attention landed on a girl in front of him. The girl was wearing a white dress and carrying a LV bag. She had makeup on her face, had a great figure and could be considered very beautiful. As compared to before, her dressing was more fashionable. She was none other than the girl who Wang Xian was once fond of, Chi Chu Chu. Chi Chu Chu also noticed Wang Xian and looked at him with astonishment. As compared to the quiet and ordinarily dressed guy, in her opinion, the current Wang Xian was better dressed. Moreover, he was emitting a unique aura. He's just wearing some $10 new clothing. Chi Chu Chu thought to herself reluctantly. What are you doing here? You don't have to work? Chi Chu Chu adjusted her LV bag and beautiful dress while speaking plainly to Wang Xian. I'm waiting for someone. Wang Xian smiled at her and was clearly no longer interested in her. As compared to Guan Shuqing, Chi Chu Chu was a far distance behind. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm also waiting for someone. Chi Chu Chu glanced at Wang Xian and a smile appeared gradually on her face. I'm waiting for my boyfriend to come and fetch me. Seeing that Wang Xian wasn't replying to him, she got a little angered. Don't you have work today? Nope, I already have enough money to spend. Wang Xian smiled. Enough. When Chi Chu Chu heard his words, her face was filled with belittling and deprecating vibes. Didn't you say that your sister would be attending the same school? And you will let her lead a comfortable university life? Do you know how expensive this bag is? How expensive the makeup cosmetic products are? Just the bag in my hand will cost more than $10,000. As she spoke, she flicked her hair with a strong sense of superiority. When she was talking, 3 to 4 young men were also waiting for others at the same location. They took a glance at Chi Chu Chu before looking at Wang Xian. As long as I have sufficient money to spend, it will be fine for me. As for the bag, as long as it can be used, I'm fine with it. After hearing the deprecating words of Chi Chu Chu, Wang Xian just smiled faintly. Every girl would hope to be able to buy bags they like and makeup cosmetics. Chi Chu Chu laughed. You aren't really a qualified brother. Hee. Wang Xian smiled and didn't bother to entertain the materialistic Chi Chu Chu. Looking at a materialistic girl like her now, she looked more like a clown. When the group of young men heard what Chi Chu Chu said, they were slightly shocked. A young man pointed at Wang Xian's shoes and mumbled to his companions. His other two companions looked over and were shocked. After which, they took a closer look at Wang Xian's clothes. Oh, that's a Harley heavy-duty motorcycle. It's a Harley. So cool. At this moment, the group of young men saw the Harley motorcycles behind Wang Xian. They couldn't help but reveal their fondness for the vehicle. It's too cool. This Harley probably costs at least a few $100,000. Nope. This Harley has been specially modified and should be a custom-made version. Custom-made Harley is even more expensive. Harley Electra Glide is sold at over $400,000 on the official website. A special custom version would definitely be more expensive. I've got a friend who had one custom-made and it cost over $800,000. However, that is still a far cry from this. In that case, wouldn't this be over $1 million? The group of young men walked over in awe and were exclaiming as they looked. Chi Chu Chu heard what they said and turned her head over in astonishment. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Wang Xian noticed that there were a few people crowding around his ride. A smile appeared on his face. A heavy-duty motorcycle is cool but still couldn't be compared with a car, he said faintly. TSK, what do you know about these? Chi Chu Chu heard what he said and looked at him with disdain. You will never be able to afford a car like this. Wang Xian chuckled upon hearing what she said. The group of young men also looked over with surprise. My boyfriend is here. Where are you going? Do you need a ride? Chi Chu Chu saw a BMW 5 Series car driving towards her, and spoke in a deprecating manner at Wang Xian. It's all right. Chu Chu. At this moment the BMW stopped by the side. A young man that looked just slightly over 20 years old stepped out. He looked a little skinny and weak and his complexion was a little pale. What's more prominent was that he had a protruded mouth and an ape-like chin. To sum it up, he looked a little ugly. The young man walked over and opened his arms slightly for an embrace. Brother Qing. Chi Chu Chu walked over and hugged the young man directly. At the same time she gave him a kiss. Who are you talking to? The young man wrapped his arms around Chi Chu Chu's waist and asked with a smile. Just a guy who tried to woo me in the past. TSK, aiming for someone completely out of his league. Chi Chu Chu pouted slightly and giggled. Oh. That young man looked at Wang Xian and took out a cigarette. He looked at Wang Xian with disdain and said, Hey brother, do you have the capability to go after Chu Chu? Wang Xian saw the young man talking to him and was slightly shocked. A cold smirk appeared on his face. He looked at the BMW 5 Series before looking at his shoes. A faint mocking expression surfaced on his face. When the group of young men heard the conversation, they were shocked too. When they heard what the girl said previously, they were already a little surprised. Right now they were completely stunned. They looked at that BMW before looking at the shoes of Wang Xian. I recalled a scene suddenly. A young man saw his other two companions pointing to the BMW suddenly before pointing to Wang Xian's shoes. Can you remember the day I asked you out to play? I was wearing Nikes. When you appeared, you turned around and left with a guy with trendy clothes and driving a BMW 5 Series. What you might not know is that his car is worth $600,000 but my Nikes are worth $810,000. The voice of the young man was loud and clear and everyone could hear it. It was especially so as the young man was pointing his finger. Chapter 27 Night Out at Sea. Chi Chu Chu and the young man at her side were stunned by the juvenile. The juvenile pointed to the BMW car and the shoes on Wang Xian's feet. Nike Amegi. Back to the Future too, the juvenile who spoke exclaimed again. Chi Chu Chu and the young man stared at that pair of Nike shoes that Wang Xian was wearing. The young man was wide-eyed as his eyes were full of disbelief. Chi Chu Chu was also dumbstruck as she could not believe her ears. Wang Xian looked at them impassively before he saw Guan Shuqing walking towards him. He immediately grinned and waved to her. Sorry to keep you waiting. Guan Shuqing scampered over and saw the zestful and good-looking Wang Xian. A faint smile surfaced on her face. It's okay. I just got here too. Wang Xian shook his head. Let's go, I'll treat you to dinner in the old street. Guan Shuqing beamed at Wang Xian as she spoke. Sure, anything would do, Wang Xian nodded. I'm riding a motorcycle. Wang Xian headed to the Harley motorcycle and unlocked it with a key. Wow, a Harley motorcycle. Looks like you're really rich. Guan Shuqing looked at him with astonishment. She thought Wang Xian might be making some money, but it was less expected that he would be rich enough to afford a Harley motorcycle. Someone gave it to me. Unfortunately, I don't have a car license yet, so I could only ride this motorcycle. Wang Xian grinned. Do you mind sitting behind? You are not using this motorcycle for wooing girls, right? Guan Shuqing looked at him and teased him. But she went on to sit at the back. Wang Xian chuckled and replied, I guess to woo girls with this is not as effective as a BMW. Hey, Guan Shuqing laughed. Let's go and have some meat skewers. Sure. Wang Xian nodded. He started the engine and rode towards the old street. Guan Shuqing stared at the back of the guy in front of her. With some hesitation, she held his waist. Cool. He is so freaking cool. That pair of shoes and the Harley motorcycle are about $2 million. He's loaded. I envy him. He's actually wearing a pair of shoes that is $800,000. Such a filthy rich man. The three juveniles looked at the Harley motorcycle that took off. Slowly, they shifted their focus to Chi Chu Chu and the other young man. Flaunting your BMW? The price of your BMW is incomparable to that one pair of shoes. Just now the girl even told the young guy to stop dreaming about riding a Harley. That young man also told him that he did not have the capital. Now that was a slap in their faces. He had a pair of shoes that was worth $700,000 to $800,000 and a Harley motorcycle that could easily cost $1 million. You guys still mocked him and asked if he has the capital. At the same time, Chi Chu Chu put on a different expression as she watched in disbelief as the Harley motorcycle zoomed off. How could he be loaded? Chi Chu Chu did not want to believe it. He was just a poor lad. How did he boost his wealth all of a sudden? And that girl just now, wasn't she the famous belle Guan Shuqing? Was he hiding his identity of a son from a wealthy family? Regrets. Deepest regrets. The young man observed the peculiar gazes from the three of them at the side with a sullen face. He was infuriated when he looked at Chi Chu Chu with a face full of regret. Let's go to the hotel. A calm and peaceful encounter with Chi Chu Chu was over. Not the slightest tinge of yearning was left. Instead, he detested her. After dinner, he sent Guan Shuqing back to her dormitory. Wang Xian looked at the moon and the stars that were shining brightly in the sky. He made up his mind to head out for the sea. I want to improve my strength and make myself even more powerful. When he'd learned that his body could resist a bullet this afternoon, Wang Xian decided to upgrade his strength as soon as possible so that he could grow stronger. He did not ride his motorcycle. Instead, he took a cab outside of the school. When he arrived at the beach, it was already 9 p.m. Wang Xiang watched the glistening waves under the moonlight. He found a remote spot, took off his clothes and jumped into the sea. Transform into a dragon. With a thought in his mind, he dived into the sea. As a newborn dragon, he had no ability yet. To possess those superpowers like wind, rain, thunder, and lightning would require the exchange with the dragon energy. Dragon race needed to cultivate for superpowers in their physical body. In divine dragon transformation, there were conversion techniques for various attributes. Dragon energy could convert to wind, rain, and even thunder and lightning. However, a mighty divine dragon would use dragon energy to upgrade his body into wind physique, water physique, and inferno physique, and many more. After upgrading to wind physique or water physique, the attributes' attacks would be much more powerful. With mighty physiques and invincible attributes, divine dragons would become the most powerful race in the universe. Divine dragons were also divided as Wind Divine Dragon, Fire Divine Dragon, Earth Divine Dragon, Thunder Divine Dragon, and so on. Among all the conversion techniques of the divine dragon transformation, He had yet to decide his cultivation direction in the future. However, Wang Xian could enhance his body parts using dragon energy. For example, he could use the dragon energy to strengthen his claws or upgrade his eyes. As a divine dragon, the darkness at night could never blind his vision. Wang Xian dived into the sea and swam to the far end. The ocean at night was as lively as it was in the day. Various fish and sea creatures were swimming in the sea. To the fish there was no day and night. In fact, most of the fish were active and hunting for food at night. At level 2, Wang Xian was not weak in his strength. Because of his mighty physical body and the power of a divine dragon, even a sea creature at level 3 would not be his match. But if he saw a shark, he would not be able to outfight it. To devour marine life like the shark, he would need to wait until he advanced to level 4. For marine life such as killer whales, he would need to advance to at least a level 5 or level 6. Perhaps there are many other mysterious yet daunting marine animals in the vast ocean, Wang Xian thought to himself. He fixed his eyes on a grouper. With a jerk he swam over and swallowed it. Bohai Sea has 2 little schools of fish. If there is a large school of fish in the ocean, my strength will improve quickly. Wang Xian had been hunting, gobbling up the fish and converting them into dragon energy in the area. But the resources in the ocean were not abundant. Due to the wild hunting of the marine animals in the country, the resources were insufficient. There are hundreds of salmon ahead. Wang Xian came to the spot where the clam girl was situated when he saw the school of salmon. He swam speedily and devoured them all at once. Dragon King. Sensing his arrival, the clam girl opened up her clamshell, revealing her clam flesh. Clam girl. Level 6. Art of Cultivation. Water Dragon Transformation. Superpower none. After the clam girl became his subordinate, Wang Xian could read more information about her. The clam girl who was practicing her water dragon transformation would become a strong existence for controlling the water element. Continue with your cultivation. The clam girl had just started her cultivation not long before. Hence there were not many changes to her. Wang Xian left his instruction with her and swam off to other surrounding areas to continue his hunting. Chapter 28. A massacre triggered by a bun 1. Swish! The sun rose into the skies and the rosy red sunlight shone on the sea surface, forming a uniquely beautiful scene. Wang Xian surfaced from within the seas with his naked body. Name Wang Xian. Race. Human, able to transform into a dragon. Level 2. Dragon Energy. 753/10000. Superpower. Dominate the marine animals. Ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. Art of Cultivation. Divine Dragon Transformation. After a night of devouring, I have only increased my dragon energy by just over 700 points. Wang Xian frowned. He wasn't very lucky the previous night as he did not encounter any school of fish like a school of ribbonfish. Therefore, he had only managed to increase his dragon energy by 700 points in a night. Feeling his body getting stronger, a faint smile appeared on his face. Since I got stronger, I don't even feel that sleepy. However, the hunger still remains. Wang Xian still couldn't survive without food at the moment. He swam to the shore, put on his clothes and leapt onto the road easily. If there's anyone who saw this scene, their jaw would have definitely dropped. This was because Wang Xian jumped over 4 meters with a single leap. Luckily, there weren't many people in the vicinity in the morning. There should be some places selling breakfast ahead. Wang Xian looked at the surroundings and thought to himself, there's a seaside holiday resort right ahead. During this hot summer, it would simply be a luxury experience to be able to spend one's holiday there. This resort was rather famous and the food and accommodations in it were rather luxurious. Naturally, the expenses would also be very high. After passing by the entrance of this summer sun resort, Wang Xian looked ahead of him and discovered a few roadside stalls. There were already quite a number of people having breakfast around. Wang Xian walked over and saw a stall selling deep-fried pancakes. He asked directly, "Boss, please give me $5 of deep-fried pancakes and a bowl of soup." "I'm sorry, son, we have sold out. replied the boss of the stall with a smile. So early. Wang Xian was a little surprised. It's almost 9 in the morning now. Moreover, there are more people working by the seaside recently, the boss explained. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed to the stall just beside it. After asking several stalls which gave similar replies, he felt a little helpless about the situation. Boss, do you still have some buns? Wang Xian arrived at the last stall selling buns and asked the boss. Yeah, we have one last serving. Son, you are really lucky. The boss smiled at him. That's great. Give me a serving of buns and a bowl of soup, Wang Xian replied before walking in and sitting down. All right, please wait a minute, shouted the boss. The money has been transferred in. Wang Xian took out his phone and saw the notification messages. He suddenly got a little agitated. 10 million. It's 10 million. The money for the pearls sold just yesterday. The edge of his mouth arched upwards. Boss, do you still have some buns? At this moment, 2 middle-aged men walked in. A slightly plump middle-aged man asked the boss. The middle-aged boss looked at the 2 men before replying, I'm sorry, misters. The last serving of buns has been ordered by that young man in the stall. Huh. The slightly plump man frowned. Boss, what do you think about selling us this last serving of bun? We are willing to offer a higher price. At this moment, the other middle-aged man, who was standing beside the plump middle-aged men, asked the boss. The boss felt a little uncomfortable about the idea. He shook his head and replied, this isn't right. He ordered it first after all. Why isn't there any more breakfast? The slightly plump middle-aged man grumbled unhappily. Director Li, it will be fine. Leave this to me. Just leave this to me. The plump middle-aged man seemed to be eager to get on the good books of the other middle-aged man. He turned his attention to Wang Xian, who was sitting in the stall. He walked forward directly into the stall and took out $100 from his pocket. Hey pal. The middle-aged man walked beside him. Wang Xian lifted his head, feeling a little surprised. What's the matter? Hey pal, I'll like to buy the last serving of buns for $100, said the middle-aged man as he placed the red cash note on the table in front of Wang Xian. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. Looking at the $100 note, he kept his silence and simply smiled. This serving of buns had cost him $8. If it was like before, he would definitely agree to the suggestion happily. This was because he didn't have money in the past. As for now, he wouldn't allow himself to go hungry for just $100. Wang Xian shook his head and replied, I'm sorry. I'm not selling. The middle-aged man was surprised. He frowned and took out another $100 note from his pocket. $200. I'm not selling. Wang Xian shook his head. Huh. The middle-aged man was clearly displeased at this point. He took out another $100 note and remarked, $300. I'm not offering any higher. Wang Xian lifted his head and looked at the gold necklace around the middle-aged man's neck. I'm not selling no matter what you are offering me. You little brat. The middle-aged man had a ghastly expression upon hearing Wang Xian's reply. What's the matter, Mr. Song? Director Li walked into the stall and asked the middle-aged man with a dissatisfied tone. It's all right, Director Li. I'm offering this brat money, but he isn't willing to sell. The middle-aged turned his head over and explained embarrassingly. Isn't this area managed by Zhang Qinyuan? Director Li remarked in a plain tone while looking at Wang Xian. He found Wang Xian a little familiar. Excuse me, misters. At this point, the boss carried the bun and walked over. When the middle-aged man heard what Director Li said, he understood the meaning behind it immediately. He looked at the boss of the stall and said coldly, Boss, this area should be under Zhang Qinyuan, right? Do you need me to give Zhang Qinyuan a call? The boss was stunned for a moment when he heard the name of Zhang Qinyuan. He immediately asked timidly, Is there anything I can help you guys with? Our Director Li hasn't got his breakfast. The middle-aged man replied before looking at Director Li, who was beside him. Director Li, please take a seat here. All right. Director Li nodded his head and sat in the seat to the right of Wang Xian. The boss was at a loss. Zhang Qinyuan was in charge of this street. Some of the facilities of this area had been modified by him. Anyone who wished to set up a stall here had to submit rentals to him. Although this place might look deserted, business here was great. Therefore this was a great place to do business for him, and allowed him to feed his entire family. The two middle-aged men weren't dressed like ordinary guys and had come in a luxurious car, which was parked right outside. For them to be able to call out Zhang Qingyuan's name, they should have some relationships between them. This, son. The boss was fearful of offending the other party, and turned to Wang Xian with an embarrassed expression. Son, this. I'm sorry. Let me get some rice for you. For free. Are you? Wang Xian saw how the boss was acting and was clearly displeased. The boss was clearly wary of the influence these two guys had, and would like to give the bun to these two middle-aged men. He didn't blame the boss for this and just kept his vision on the middle-aged man and Director Li beside him. He recognized this Director Li, as he was the boss of first-grade seafood restaurant. When Guan Shuqing had accidentally knocked over the arowana, he almost beat Guan Shuqing up in a fit of anger. If it wasn't for Wang Xian previously, the consequences for Guan Shuqing would be hard to imagine. With regard to Director Li, Wang Xian didn't have a good impression of him. He was even trying to use his influence to bully others over a serving of buns. It's all right, boss. Just get me a bowl of rice. You can give them the bun, Wang Xian said to the boss, and didn't make things difficult for him. All right, thank you, son. Thank you. The boss nodded his head in gratitude as he thanked Wang Xian. I was offering you $300 previously, and yet you weren't willing to sell. Look at it now. Teske. The middle-aged man beside him sneered. Chapter 29. A massacre triggered by a bun too. At the bun stall, Wang Xian looked impassively at Director Li and the middle-aged man. He was slightly embarrassed by the way they got their things done. I'll let you have a taste of regret when the time comes. Cold radiance flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. He was a tit-for-tat person. The middle-aged man scorned at Wang Xian. Subsequently, he bowed and scraped as he passed the pair of chopsticks to Director Li. Director Li, please have it. I had my breakfast. You reaped quite an amount of fish in your farm. I'm sure you'll sign the contract with the two countries in East Asia today. Hey, it's way within my expectation. Otherwise, I would not have loaned $20 million just to set up the fishery, said Director Li with an indifferent tonality. But his expression was full of complacency. This time your profits will double. You're my boss from now on, the middle-aged man quickly added on. Sure, Xiao Zhao, I guarantee you that you will not lose out if you follow me. This year, the fishery will produce at least 300,000 kilograms of goods. The export price is $60 per 500 grams. That would be $36 million. After deducting costs and manpower, the profits can hit around $20 million. Your small little fish pond can expand after today. Director Li nodded with pride. Yes, Director Li. I'll follow you after this year. You got your investment capital back just within a year. That's awesome. Hell, right. Have you found a channel for my seafood? I am short on premium seafood supply in the first-grade restaurant. The last supply channel was gone, and the school will reopen soon. The current situation doesn't look optimistic. This will tarnish my brand name. Besides, there is another high-class seafood restaurant open beside me. Obviously, they want to steal my business. Director Li, leave this to me. I'll help you find one since I know the people from the fish market. Just leave it to me. The newly opened seafood restaurant will never surpass your first-grade restaurant. Fishery? Fish farms? Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he eavesdropped on their conversation about the fishery. He pondered to himself. He put down the rice bowl, took out his phone and began to search for Rivertown fish farms. Oh, there are fish farms over here and they are nearby. Wang Xian studied the information on his phone with a ray of sharp radiance flashing in his eyes. He spun and looked at Director Li and that middle-aged man with his lips slightly drawn. They quickly finished their meals and headed out. Wang Xian stood up and followed them. Young man, I'm sorry. When Wang Xian was at the door paying $2, the boss of the stall apologized to him. It's okay. Wang Xian gestured. When he saw Director Li and the middle-aged man get in the Audi Q7, he quickly asked, Boss, do you know where the nearest fishery is? Fishery? The boss was slightly stunned as he pointed in a direction in front of them. The fishery zones in the river town can be found 700 to 800 meters ahead. Oh, thank you. Wang Xian nodded as he beamed. The Audi was already gone in the direction that the boss had pointed out. Wang Xian immediately followed in the same direction. These 2 days, Wang Xian had never been there before as he always went out to the sea for hunting. Hence, he did not notice the fish farm. Wang Xian sped up. True enough, he spotted Director Li's car parked along the roadside at the turning point 1,000 meters away. He walked over and spotted the fish farms with nets all over the sea. However, there was a protruding spot not far from there. That region extended out to the land with a surface area of 40 hectares, which was equivalent to a mini inland sea. However, the region was surrounded by purse seine and other materials, so as to form the best geographical location for the fishery. At this time, Director Li and the middle-aged man were standing at the shore, surrounded by a group of workers. A few fishing boats were parked within the fishery. From a distance, he could vaguely see various types of fish. There are so many fish here. Wang Xian fixed his astonished eyes on the fishery. This is the fishery that belongs to that Director Li. According to what he said, there are 300,000 kilograms of fish over here. 300,000 kilograms. That is enough for him to advance to the next level. Wang Xian was thrilled, but a cold-looking expression surfaced on his face. With a swift movement, he headed to the sea at the back. He found a remote spot to take off his clothes and entered the sea. Transform into a dragon. As he moved, the golden divine dragon of 1 meter long swished his dragon tail and headed swiftly to the location where the fisheries were. There are many fish varieties in each fishery. Wang Xian swam around and passed by many fisheries, but he did not enter to devour the fish. The owners of these fisheries did not offend him. Wang Xian would not harm anyone else just to advance his levels. He still had basic moral principles. However, he would not spare that fishery of Director Li. Soon Wang Xian swam to the side of that fishery. Through the water, he could see Director Li and the middle-aged man on the shore. They actually used steel wire mesh. Wang Xian saw the row of steel wire mesh at the opening that prevented the fish from escaping. Wang Xian chuckled softly. He stretched out his claws and slammed it hard on the mesh. Kakaka! Soon the steel wire mesh was broken, and Wang Xian entered. Voila! Large yellow croaker. Level 0. Extractable dragon energy 0.08. When he just entered the farm, he saw a yellow croaker of about 1 kilogram. A smile surfaced on his face. As Wang Xian emanated his dragon power, the large yellow croaker shuddered and stayed still immediately. At level 2, his dragon power not only covered an area of 10 meters, but the marine animals within 10 meters, which were lower levels than him, would be oppressed and controlled by him. At a size of 1 meter, Wang Xian opened his mouth and gulped down the fish. The sea was about 5 to 6 meters deep. No one would discover Wang Xian at the bottom of the sea. Come, get some workers along with me to the sea and bring some fish up. When the partners from the 2 countries are here, we can also introduce the fish to them. Just then Wang Xian seemed to hear Director Li's voice. The seawater could not blur his vision as he looked up. Director Li and the middle-aged man boarded a fishing boat, and one of the workers drove the boat to the center of the sea. Bring a few fish of different varieties up. Director Li ordered the worker at the side. Yes, boss. The worker nodded. He brought out a net and threw it into the fish farm casually. Soon dozens of breadfish like sea bass, yellow croaker, groupers and pufferfish were caught in the net. They were some of the goods from the fishery. Boss, the fish are good. I'm sure they can fetch a good price this year, said the worker holding the fish. Good. Not bad. Haha, Director Li laughed out. When the people from the 2 countries are here, I'm sure our cooperation will be a breeze. I'm sure there will be no problem. After signing this contract, we can have our own supply channel. For the next few years, we will only earn big money. The middle-aged man fawned over Director Li. Yes. Director Li stood on the fishing boat and looked out at his fishery with excitement. From now on, this place would be his Aladdin's cave. Chapter 30. A massacre triggered by a bun 3. Sign the contract. Wang Xian, who was at the bottom of the sea, revealed a tinge of coldness upon hearing their conversation. His turned his vision to the densely packed yellow croaker fish, sea bass, grouper and puffer fish around him and showed a faint smile. The massacre triggered by a bun is just about to start. This should let you know the consequences of offending me, and also not to be so arrogant in your actions. Wang Xian shifted his body and activated his dragon power. Different types of fish gathered tightly around him. Shifting his body again, all the fish were gathering towards him. This place was different from the sea as the fish were all packed in a small area. Close to 300 tons of fish were being bred in this confined area, and they were free for him to devour. The extractable dragon energy from bred fish are a little lower than those from the other fish. However, their strength lies in their large numbers. Wang Xian got agitated and opened his mouth widely to devour fish after fish in a frenzied manner. There were several hundreds of fish around him. Even if he was devouring one with each mouthful, it would still take a long time under normal circumstances. Wang Xian's dragon energy was increasing at a terrifying pace. His body size was also growing rapidly from 1 meter at the beginning to approximately 1.5 meters. As for the fish in the fish farm, they were decreasing at a rapid pace. Great, this feels really great. His strength was increasing rapidly. After an hour, Wang Xian's body size had reached close to 2 meters. His devouring speed had increased by 10 times, and was able to devour a dozen fish per mouthful. And at this moment Director Li, who was on shore, still had no idea what was happening within his fish farm. There were 6 to 7 men standing beside him beside the shore. These people were clearly not Chinese and Director Li was accompanying them with a cheerful grin. Hello everyone. This is my fish farm. It is the largest and the best fish farm in the entire river town. We are different from those fish farms who do seine fish by the sea. Our farm is 5 meters deep, and the fish we breed have qualities similar to those from the wild. We have yellow croaker fish, puffer fish, grouper and sea bass being reared right here. We have some of them right here and you are free to come and take a look at the quality. Director Li spoke confidently to the group of people. Among this group of people 2 old men walked over. They squatted down, took a look at the fish in the sea and nodded their heads slightly. The quality looks great from the exterior. However, if we are going to sign a long-term cooperation agreement, we've got to understand more and in more detail, one of the old men said to Director Li. Naturally. Director Li nodded his head. We can catch some fish from this place and ask the chef to cook them right away. Since we are going to work together, we should help each other. There would definitely not be any problem. Great. I appreciate Director Li's honesty. If the fish are of top grade, we are willing to sign the contract with you. A middle-aged foreigner replied with a smile. In that case, please follow me. I believe that the fish from our farm will not disappoint you guys. Director Li made an invitational pose to the group, and the group of people boarded the fishing boat by the sea. Go to the center and catch a dozen fish to show our clients. Director Li walked forward and said to the worker at the fish farm. All right, boss. The worker nodded his head, operated the fishing boat and headed towards the center of the fish farm. This fish farm is pretty big, and could possibly produce quite a number of types of fish each year. If their fish meet our requirement, we could work with them. After all, their offer price and quantity are pretty attractive. On the fishing board, the group of foreigners conversed softly in their own language. Director Li noticed their expressions. He continued, my fish farm could breed 400 to 500 tons of fish. For this year, this number is about 300 tons. The number would be even greater next year. Director Li, your fish farm is great. Let's hope that we can work together, a foreigner replied. It is also my wish to work with you guys. A burst of excitement flashed past Director Li's eyes. I have a restaurant just some distance away. Let me be a good host and treat you guys to a sumptuous meal during the afternoon. Definitely, definitely. The crowd smiled and nodded their heads. The fishing boat arrived at the center of the fish farm. Director Li signaled to the worker and instructed, get some fish for us. All right, boss. That worker nodded his head, took out a huge net and threw it ahead of him. The crowd moved to the front of the boat to take a closer look. Swish. The net fell quickly into the water, and the worker quickly pulled it back. However, he was shocked when he noticed that the net was empty. I didn't catch any? The worker was a little embarrassed. He smiled at Director Lee and explained, Director Lee, let me do it again. The fish are not concentrated here. It's all right. Director Lee shook his head and wasn't too concerned. He looked to the crowd and explained, in order to let the fish have a better environment for growth, the fish in our fish farm aren't very concentrated. The crowd smiled and weren't too concerned either. The fishing boat moved ahead by several dozens of meters. The worker took out the net and threw it ahead of him once again. Swish! As the fishing net fell into the water, the worker started pulling the net back immediately. However, to his astonishment, he still hadn't caught a single fish. What's happening? The worker mumbled to himself in shock. When Director Lee saw what had happened, he also frowned. What's the matter? Didn't we easily catch a dozen fish just this morning? Boss, I'm not too sure. Let me give it another try. The worker frowned, sorted out the fishing net and threw it to the surroundings once again. The fish net scattered perfectly on the water. The worker smiled and remarked, there should be fish this time. However, when he pulled the net up, there still wasn't a single fish. This time the worker was even more shocked. Director Lee also frowned and said, What's the matter? Why isn't there a single fish in this area? What's wrong? Why aren't there any fish despite scattering the net several times? This shouldn't be happening. What's wrong? Doubt surfaced on the foreigners' faces. They took a glance at Director Lee before looking at the fish farm. Perhaps the fish are all gathered at another location. Xiaohua, let's get closer to the edge. The worker was confused as he spoke to the young man operating the boat. The fishing boat approached the edge and that worker threw out the fishing net immediately. Splash! The fishing net fell into the sea. After pulling the net up, there was still not a single fish. How could it be? How could it be? The worker was full of shock and surprise. He scattered the net to the surrounding area several more times but still came up empty-handed. Director Lee was stunned. He frowned, looked at the surroundings and was clearly embarrassed. How can there be no fish? There were still a lot of them in the morning. Why isn't there any now? Director Lee asked with a ghastly expression. Boss, I have no idea either. Logically speaking, we should be getting a lot of fish by just pulling up our net. This type of thing shouldn't be happening. The worker looked like he was wronged and was clearly displeased. What just happened? How can there be no fish in such a large fish farm? Director Lee, where are your fish? The group of foreigners frowned as they asked Director Lee. Chapter 31, Level 3, and the despairing Director Lee. Fish? They already converted to dragon energy. You would have never expect to pay such a hefty price for snatching my buns away. Wang Xian overheard their conversations in the sea with a faint smile on his face. He looked around him. Currently, only one school of fish from the fish farm was left, controlled by him. Wang Xian opened his mouth wide. He swung his tail slightly and darted out like a sharp arrow. A few hundred fish were devoured by him easily as he passed through them. Extracted 0.09 dragon energy. 10,000 dragon energy completed. Evolved to Divine Dragon Level 3. At the same time, Wang Xian sensed an immense dragon energy charging and strengthening his body. The dragon scales amid golden glow were even more firm and secure. His pair of dragon claws were stronger and tougher. Every single strike of the claws contained a daunting amount of destructive power. His body weighed even more with two imposing dragon beards at the side. Name Wang Xian. Race: human. Able to transform into a dragon. Level 3. Dragon Energy. 1/100,000. Superpower. Dominate the marine animals. Ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than own existing level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. Art of Cultivation. Divine Dragon Transformation. Level 3. With my current physical body, I guess even a bullet would not hurt me. But according to my research, my human form is much weaker than my dragon form, Wang Xian thought to himself. He did a demonstration last night. He tried to knock himself against a boulder, and the dragon's scales on him were unscathed. But his human form was weaker than his dragon form by 2 times. Wang Xian's current physical body could take a bullet from a handgun, or even some guns that are more powerful. I still left with the last few thousand fish. I will devour them all and leave nothing here. Wang Xian moved his body at an extremely high speed. Within 5 minutes, the remaining fish left in the fishery were all devoured. The entire fishery was left with no fish. All of them were exterminated. Director Li was on tenterhooks as he stood on the fishing boat. His body was shuddering and his voice was shaking. Carry on with the search. Carry on. How could the fish be missing? Yes, boss. The worker on the boat wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He had cast over 20 nets just now, and none of them caught any fish. This was extremely peculiar. How could the fish be missing out of the blue from a fishery with at least 300,000 kilograms of fish goods? Voila! The fish net was cast into the sea, and the same thing happened again. An empty net was pulled out from it. Director Li was getting the creeps when he saw the same thing happening all over again. Director Li, didn't you say you have 300,000 kilograms of fish in your fishery? Where are they now? Yes, Director Li. For both parties to establish a partnership, we need to see your fish. But now? At this time, a group of foreigners on the fishing boat frowned as they looked at Director Li in dismay. Without fish, how are they going to establish the partnership? Upon hearing what they said, Director Li darkened his expression as his heart was racing in fear. The fishery had cost him $20 million to set up. $20 million was invested in the rental and manpower down to the setup, fry in the fish food. Now, he was ready to use the fish goods in the fishery to recover that sum of money. But all the fish goods in the entire fishery had vanished. Vanished. No doubt this had impacted him significantly, and he was at risk of bankruptcy. Use a bigger net and pull them out. I don't believe 300,000 kilograms of fish can disappear without reason. Director Li called out to his worker with a sullen face instead of answering to those foreigners. As the worker on the boat observed the expression on his boss's face, his blood ran cold. Immediately, he called upon all the other workers to harvest for fish with the purse seine. 3 fishing boats reached the center of the fishery and deployed large purse seine to encircle the school with the net. Time passed quickly, and the blazing hot sun was hanging in the sky. Sweat was breaking on Director Li's forehead, while the middle-aged man at the side handed a piece of tissue to him gingerly. The group of foreigners stood at the side, watching impassively. The 3 fishing boats began to harvest the fish, and the net was drawn up quickly. However, nothing. There were no fish at all. The entire fishery seemed to be completely empty without a single fish fry left. Let's go. We wasted a few days of our time. Yes, what a disappointing trip. Next time, we will not be cooperating with a fishery without any credential. The foreigners who stood at the side of the fishery shook their heads as they stared at Director Li coldly. One by one they turned and walked out. Why? Why? Director Li's eyes opened wide as he murmured to himself while looking at the sea and the fishery. There was only despair left. He seemed to be in a trance-like state as he stumbled and fell on the ground. Director Li, the middle-aged man exclaimed as he held Director Li up. It's all over. Director Li sat on the floor with mixed expressions. Director Li, we can start all over again. Don't give up. The middle-aged man consoled him. It's over. All over. I need to pay back $20 million loans this year. Unless I sell away all my assets, otherwise. Director Li was dazed as he sat there with his eyes empty. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment and lost his tongue. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Blame it on yourself. Wang Xian glared at Director Li, who was sitting on the shore with cold eyes. He rocked his body and swam towards the sea speedily. The 2-meter-long body gave off a mighty and imposing vibe. When he reached the steel wire mesh at the exit, Wang Xian stuck out his dragon claws and ripped the wire mesh into a large hole such that he could dive out from it. His speed in the sea was so fast that even the sharks were slower than him. In the sea, the marlins and the swordfish were the only two types of fish that could swim faster than him. At first I thought I would need more than 10 days to advance to level 3. This is totally a surprise. Now it's only 2 p.m. I shall catch some seafood and do some outdoor cooking back at school. Wang Xian was feeling chirpy. Level advancement and the $10 million in his bank cheered him up. The only thing that was not going well for him was his empty stomach. He swam back to the sea and caught 3 lobsters and some swimming crabs before he came back to the shore. Chapter 32 2 week. Emerging from the seas, Wang Xian put his clothes back on. Since his level had advanced to level 3, there'd been an invisible might of the dragon emitting from his body. At the same time, his body became slender and of perfect proportion. Through the strengthening by the dragon energy, his skin was fair and flawless without any marks. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. He stretched his back before looking for a string to tie up all the lobsters and swimming crabs. I'm going to have a good rest when I get back. Wang Xian clenched his fist as he felt the strength of his body. With a face of smiles, he headed forward. It's easier to get a private hire car nearer to the Summer Sun Resort. Therefore, he had chosen to walk towards the entrance of the Summer Sun Resort. The sun was hung high up in the sky during the early afternoon. When it was noontime, the skies started to darken. Wang Xian raised his head and took a look at the weather. Perhaps I might be able to summon clouds and make it rain as I wish one day. Wang Xian thought to himself. He smiled and arrived at the entrance of the Summer Sun Resort. There was a huge fountain in front of the main gates of the resort. At the sides of the gate, there were trees and other plants as decoration. These plants cast shadows over an area, and there were some tables and chairs under the shade that was available for others to take a break. Wang Xian noticed that there weren't any private hire cars at the entrance. He took out his phone and started calling for one through the internet. It's raining now. However, at this moment, small droplets of rain started falling from the skies. Wang Xian immediately ran towards the shade of the trees. When he arrived at the shade, he saw a middle-aged and old man within it. The old man was wearing a white martial arts suit made of silk and looked just like the typical old people who practice Tai Chi in the garden in the morning. As for the middle-aged man, he was wearing a shirt and standing by the side. He was looking at the old man with caring eyes. Wang Xian's arrival drew the attention of the middle-aged man. He took a glance at him and didn't pay attention to him thereafter. Wang Xian placed the lobsters and swimming crabs by the side before picking up his phone to continue his booking. Vroom vroom vroom. At this moment, the revving sounds of the engine of a sports car sounded over. Wang Xian turned his head to take a look and noticed a teenager running out of a Ferrari towards him. Grandfather. The teenager looked very strong and healthy. With a simple jump, he leapt over the grass and started shouting excitedly towards the old man. Grandfather, I've made the breakthrough. The old man looked at his grandson and revealed a satisfied look. Not bad, not bad. You are much better than your father. Your father had only made the breakthrough when he was 27 years old. Grandfather, come and give me some guidance. The teenager rubbed his hands excitedly. The old man saw Wang Xian. He waved his hand and replied to his grandson, let's do it at night. It's not very convenient right now. The teenager was taken aback slightly. He took a glance at Wang Xian, who was standing just beside them, and knew that his grandfather was a little wary. He turned towards Wang Xian and said directly, Hey brother, do you mind excusing yourself from here? We have some matters to attend to. When Wang Xian heard his words, doubts arose in his mind as he looked at the teenager in front of him. His demanding demeanor pissed Wang Xian off and thus he just ignored the teenager. The teenager frowned and a cold and murderous intent flashed past his eyes. He walked slowly towards Wang Xian. Xiao Jing, don't cause trouble, the old man reminded him when he noticed his grandson was walking over. Grandfather, I'll just be inviting him away. I won't cause any trouble. The teenager seemed to be a little fearful of the old man as he turned around and replied to him. After which, he extended his hand over to Wang Xian and grabbed his shoulder. Wang Xian lifted an eyebrow when he saw the action of the teenager. Looking at his extended arm, Wang Xian moved his right arm and grabbed onto the teenager's arm. What do you want? Wang Xian lifted his head and said coldly to the teenager. The teenager looked surprised. Soon after, the corner of his mouth arched up slightly as he spoke. Your reaction is pretty quick. Moving his arm, he reverse grabbed onto Wang Xian's right arm. So fast. A normal person definitely couldn't achieve this speed. Wang Xian was slightly shocked as he looked at the teenager grabbing onto his arm. At this point, he recalled the conversation between them and the martial artist the boss robber had mentioned previously. Could it be that they are martial artists? Hey brat, please get out of our sight. The teenager looked at Wang Xian with eyes of mockery and disdain. However, he was gradually applying force with his palm. Pretty strong. Wang Xian was once again slightly shocked as he felt the strength of the teenager through his arm. At the same time, he started exerting a little strength onto the arm of the teenager. Arg! You are seeking your own death. A horrifying shriek of pain propagated, following which the teenager growled furiously. The middle-aged man and old man were shocked when they heard the shriek and quickly turned around. Xiaojing, stop it! Don't injure others! They shouted when they saw the teenager lifting his leg and sweeping it viciously towards Wang Xian. Feeling his arm going numb, the angered teenager didn't stop but instead attacked furiously with his right leg. It's you who are seeking your own death. Wang Xian saw the vicious attack from the teenager. His expression turned colder and he reached out his palm directly. What seemed like an unstoppable right leg was grabbed directly and no longer pushed ahead. Similarly, Wang Xian lifted his leg and kicked towards the chest of the teenager. Bam! The strong impact force smashed the teenager onto the stone bench by the side. The teenager couldn't hold back and vomited blood, followed by a horrifying shriek. How dare you injure my son? Everything happened in just a blink of an eye. They had initially thought that this young man would be injured by the teenager. However, in just an instant Xiaojing was the one who was so gravely injured that he spat out blood from the impact. The middle-aged man was stunned. However, he moved quickly subsequently and attacked Wang Xian like a leopard hunting its prey. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man and murderous intent started to build up. The speed of the middle-aged man was much faster than the teenager. However, it was still too slow in his eyes. Looking at the fist that was attacking towards him, he reached out his hand directly. He stopped the fist with one hand and stopped it from moving an inch. The middle-aged man was shocked. The punch he had put all his strength in was stopped as though it was being fixed in the position. Too weak. Wang Xian also lifted his fist and attacked towards the stomach of the middle-aged man. Bam! The mighty strength of the divine dragon sent the middle-aged man to his knees directly. Hey pal, this is just a misunderstanding. The old man was dumbfounded to see the young man defeating his grandson and son with just a kick and a punch. He quickly interrupted. Wang Xian looked to the old man and shrugged his shoulders slightly. I don't think that this is just a misunderstanding. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry. I'm Shueliangren, please accept my apologies. The old man hurried over and said to Wang Xian with his right fist clasped in his left palm. Please forgive us. My grandson and son failed to recognize how mighty you are. If they have offended you, please allow me to apologize for them. The old man repeated himself. Cough cough. The old man was a little agitated and started coughing violently. He quickly took out a white handkerchief to wipe his mouth and his blood was all over the handkerchief. Wang Xian looked at the old man. He shook his head slightly and remarked, forget it. He wasn't a person with violent tendencies. If the teenager's attitude was better and he hadn't wanted to show his strength in front of him, he would not have retaliated. Moreover, he had not controlled his strength well when he attacked previously. He had thought that the other party was strong, but they were unexpectedly weak to spit out blood after just taking a kick. This guy was just too unlucky. Too weak, too weak. Is this the strength of a martial artist? Chapter 33 Respect. Father. The middle-aged man kneeling on the floor had cold sweat breaking on his forehead. He endured the pain and stood up as he saw his father spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. Then, he walked to the side of the old man. I'm fine. The old man waved his hand with an ashen face. Take a look at Xiao Jing and call the ambulance. The middle-aged man nodded. He swept a wary gaze at Wang Xian and walked quickly to his son. Xiao Jing, are you all right? The expression of the middle-aged man was awful as he placed his hand on the chest of the juvenile. Immediately, he fished for his phone and called an ambulance. How could this young man be so formidable? I don't think I was his match even during my peak. Shuel Yongren coughed again as he observed Wang Xian with terror. It never rains but it pours. Not only did he sustain serious injuries, but his grandson also encountered a formidable expert. He did not expect that the arrogant behavior of his grandson would bring such a disastrous consequence. If the other party insisted on going after them, that would be simply an undeserved catastrophe for the Shui family. The moment he thought of this, Shuel Yongren felt his injuries worsen. He staggered to a seat that had a briefcase on it. Without hesitation, he took out a checkbook and wrote $10 million on it. This was a gift of apology. Even if they could not befriend him, they could never allow themselves to provoke such a young and formidable expert at this time. Wang Xian did not bother about them as he peered at the three generations. If someone provokes me, I'll definitely pay them back. Otherwise, I would not provoke anyone without reason. This was Wang Xian's principle even though he possessed a powerful strength now. Of course, he knew he needed to remove all source of trouble if they were his foes. After all, he had seen and read so many dramas and novels. A good man died for his kindness while a scoundrel died for speaking too much. Young chap. When Wang Xian was about to hop in a cab and leave, the old man came to him slowly. Her. Wang Xian raised his eyebrow when he spun and looked at the old man. My grandson was reckless and offended you just now. I'm here to apologize on his behalf. The old man took the check in both hands and handed to Wang Xian. $10 million? Wang Xian was shocked to see the figures on the check. $10 million. This is $10 million. The old man is offering this amount of money as an apology. He looked at the old man, stunned. Please accept it. Seeing no response from Wang Xian, he thought Wang Xian was not going to forgive them. Hence, he pleaded again with trepidation. Cough cough. After he finished his sentence, he began to cough non-stop again. He quickly covered his mouth with his hand, but blood was dripping off from it. Upon seeing this, Wang Xian took the check. Thank you for forgiving us. The pale-looking old man had a faint smile on his face. Father. When the middle-aged man at the side heard the coughing, he was so worried that he looked over and called to him. I will not take this money for nothing. Wang Xian looked at the old man and said. He placed his palm on the chest area of that old man. Young chap. The old man stiffened up when Wang Xian suddenly struck, as he was not able to resist him at all. Without saying a word, an amount of dragon energy entered the old man's body. Almost immediately, the condition of the old man appeared in Wang Xian's mind. There was a black spot at the heart. Besides that, he found unique energy in 8 extraordinary meridians which protected his heart. Otherwise, he would have been dead. Could this energy be so-called internal energy? Wang Xian was doubtful when he was examining the injuries in the old man's body. He pressed his palm against the old man's chest. As he gently pressed down his palm twice, the dragon energy traveled to the location where the black spot was. The dragon energy was the most formidable energy of all. It could strengthen the physical body and upgrade marine animals. As such, it had a tremendous effect in healing too. After consuming about 100 points of dragon energy, Wang Xian cleared up the black spot around his heart. He pressed his palm again when he saw the clotted blood in the old man's body. This. Just when the old man was freaked out, he suddenly felt a stream of warm energy envelope his heart. Soon after, he felt something gush out of his throat, and he spat out a mouthful of black-colored blood. What are you doing? Don't hurt my father. Otherwise, I'll fight you out with my life. Shut up. The middle-aged man had bloodshot eyes as he raged when his father spat out blood after Wang Xian placed his palm on his chest. However, the old man stopped him before he could finish his sentence. Different from his previous breathless voice, he sounded full of energy. Young chap, you're my benefactor. Thank you. Thank you for treating my injury. Thank you. The old man bent his body with his fists cupped as he bowed to Wang Xian. His cheeks were blushed, and his eyes were filled with excitement. The moment he spat the blood, he knew he was fully recovered from his injury. The old man knew that this injury of his almost had his life. It was difficult to treat and recover from it. Yet, what the young man before him did was place his palm at his chest, and it was healed after some presses. What kind of ability was this? Even the disciples of the medical saint or one of the highly skilled doctors from the Sacred Followers Guild would not be able to get this cured at this speed. Is he the disciple of the medical saint? Or one of the disciples from the Sacred Followers Guild? This is freaking scary. You're welcome. This will pay for your medical bills. Wang Xian waved the check in his hand. He looked and walked over to the juvenile who was in a coma. Might as well do it together. In a nutshell, the juvenile could only blame his condition on his luck as he offended Wang Xian, while he had no idea of the strength he possessed. In the end he spat blood after his kick, and it almost cost him a life. Since the old man gave $10 million, Wang Xian regarded it as their medical bills. Wang Xian did not want to take advantage of others. Spending more than 100 points of dragon energy in exchange for $10 million was quite a good deal for him. Wang Xian came to the juvenile and placed his hand on his chest. Under the scan of the dragon energy, he realized that a few of his rib bones were broken and one of them even pierced through his lungs. His injuries were rather severe. If not for his strong physique, he could have died by now. Wang Xian shook his head and healed the juvenile with his dragon energy. The juvenile opened his eyes as his injuries were slowly recovering. When he saw Wang Xian, he could not help but shudder. You should thank him for treating you. He forgave you and healed your injuries. You better apologize and thank him now. Xiao Jing, apologize and thank him now. Our benefactor cured your grandfather and you. You should thank him. The juvenile was shocked when he heard what his grandfather and father said. He stared, terrified, at the smiling Wang Xian, who possessed formidable strength that could kill him in 1 second. Big brother, I'm sorry. I was acting impetuously just now. It's all my fault. Thank you. Thank you for your magnanimous actions. The juvenile quickly answered without the previous self-conceited attitude. Chapter 34. The Ancient Martial Arts Family, Shui Family. Blessing in disguise, blessing in disguise. At this point, the old and middle-aged men were looking at the recovering teenager excitedly. They would have never expected that this mysterious and strong young man would forego the past and treat their injuries. The old man couldn't help but feel fortunate about his initial attitude and the wise decision to give him $10 million. It's done. Wang Xian stood up and said plainly to the old man. He had a rather good impression of the old and middle-aged men. When the teenager attacked him, the two of them immediately shouted at the teenager for him to stop. Subsequently, the old men even apologized sincerely. At that moment, Wang Xian had already forgiven them. After which, the old man even gave him $10 million. This was the main reason for him to help to cure their injuries. Thank you, pal. Old man Shui Yongren clasped his right fist with his left palm as he thanked Wang Xian. Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, big brother. The middle-aged man and teenager also thanked him in succession. Although that teenager was probably older than Wang Xian, he still addressed Wang Xian as big brother. There's no way he could not be convinced of Wang Xian's capabilities. It's all right, you have paid for your medical fees. Wang Xian waved his hand and said to the old man. Pal, these medical fees are nothing compared with my injuries. If there's anything my Shui family could help you with, feel free to instruct us. We would not reject you. Shui Yongren spoke sincerely. Wang Xian looked at the old man and smiled. He changed his tone before continuing. There's something I'm curious about and would like to ask if you are willing to tell me. If I know, I would not keep anything back. The old man replied in a hurry. When it comes to cultivating, do you mind explaining it in detail to me? Wang Xian asked curiously. He had no knowledge about martial artists, cultivation and internal energy at all. Cultivate? Shui Yongren was a little shocked. However, he organized his thoughts quickly and said, "The current cultivation ways are known as ancient martial arts. Those who have stepped into the world of ancient martial arts are known as martial artists and are hidden within cities. Although there aren't a lot of them, the numbers are definitely not small. They exist in the forms of families or sections. Many large corporations are directly or indirectly controlled by martial artist families or sections. Martial artists could be segregated into 9 levels. Through absorbing spiritual energy, they are able to open their 8 extraordinary meridians. One could advance a level by opening 1 extraordinary meridian. When all 8 extraordinary meridians are opened, one would be at level 9. When one had sufficient and complete spiritual energy, they would be classified as inborn. Inborn experts are the real experts in the world. I Shueliangren am not too gifted. I was exposed to ancient martial arts by accident when I was young. Now that I'm 85 years old, I'm only at level 6 and am the number 5 in Rivertown. This allows me to support my small Shui family." "Oh." Wang Xian nodded his head in deep thought upon hearing what the old man said. The world is mysterious and he wouldn't find it strange that it had martial artists. My son Shui Jiehua is pretty capable and is currently at martial artist level 5. My grandson Shui Jing is even more gifted and is at martial artist level 4. The old man added. He looked at Wang Xian and continued, "With your strength, you are probably at martial artist level 7. You are really insanely gifted and a once-in-a-million-years talent." Level 7? Wang Xian was slightly shocked. His current level was only 3. However, his level 3 was based on the Divine Dragon's classification. In other words, he could fight with human martial artists 4 levels above him. Level 4 martial artists could dodge a bullet and level 5 martial artists could survive under gunfire. When one reaches level 6, ordinary bullets would not be a threat anymore. At level 7, one could ignore bullets. Only concentrated cannon bombardment could kill you. As for level 8 and 9, one would be even stronger. When one reached the inborn stage, one could be the ruler of a region. Shueliangren explained this slowly. Wang Xian nodded his head and broke into laughter. "Thank you for the information. I have some things to attend to and I'll be leaving now." "Hey pal, I'll get Jiehua to send you back." The old man replied in a hurry. "It's all right, I'll just call for a car." Wang Xian shook his head and rejected the offer. "Big brother, let me give you a ride. My car is just right there." Shui Jing spoke immediately and pointed to his sports car by the side. "Yeah pal, let Xiao Jing give you a ride. It would be quicker." The old man seconded. All right." Wang Xian saw the private hire car left from the entrance of the resort and therefore didn't reject this time. "Come, big brother, let me help you carry this. You can just get into the car." Shui Jing acted sensibly as he took the large lobsters and swimming crabs at the side before running towards the sports car quickly to open the car door. Wang Xian nodded at Shui Jing and sat in it directly. Shui Jing smiled and closed the door carefully. "Xiao Jing." At this point, Shueliangren and the middle-aged man walked over and shouted at Shui Jing. "Grandfather, father." Shui Jing walked up immediately and greeted. "This is the family membership card for our Summer Sun Holiday Resort. Please pass it to that pal. You must definitely treat him well. This might just be an opportunity for the Shui family. Remember this. Our Shui family is still very weak." Shueliangren instructed Shui Jing sternly. "Rest assured, grandfather. I know what I have to do and I won't be rash." Shui Jing nodded his head solemnly. Get this pal back quickly." Shueliangren patted him on the shoulders. "Yes." Shui Jing got into his car immediately. "Big brother, where would you like to go?" "University of Rivertown," Wang Xian replied with a smile upon hearing how Shui Jing addressed him, seeing the bloodstains on his clothes. "All right, big brother. Big brother, are you a student at the University of Rivertown?" "I graduated from that university in the past," Shui Jing said with a smiling face. He started the car and saw Wang Xian nod his head. At this point, he took out the family membership card for Summer Sun Resort that his grandfather had passed to him. This was a family membership card. Although it might sound cliché, it was much more valuable than the platinum or diamond cards that they gave to other customers. Family membership card was representing the Shui family. Up till this point in time, the Shui family had only issued 2 such cards. One who possessed this card could enjoy the best service in Summer Sun Resort without any cost forever. Moreover, family membership card gave the impression of closeness and could help them shorten the distance between them. Big brother, this is a family membership card for our Summer Sun Resort and is our highest grade card. With this card, you can enjoy the most premium service at no cost forever. If Big brother has the time, you can drop by. Feel free to bring your friends along. Xuejing held the card beside Wang Xian as he explained. Summer Sun Resort. When Wang Xian saw this card, he was a little surprised. Summer Sun Resort is your family's property. Yes, big brother. We have another Summer Sun International Hotel in the city too. This card could also be used there. Big brother, please accept this, replied Xuejing. It's all right. Wang Xian was slightly stunned. He had not expected the family of 3 generations would be the owner of Summer Sun Resort. This explained why they could take out $10 million as compensation directly. Big brother, you have to accept it. I'm under the orders of my grandfather and father. Otherwise, I will be beaten by them when I get back. Xuejing turned around and acted pitifully. Oh, what the? Wang Xian was speechless when he saw how he acted. Acting cute? You are a grown-up now. Is it fine to act cute in front of me? And keep calling me big brother? Chapter 35. Consent and Rejection. Big brother, take care. Xuejing sent Wang Xian to the school gate and waved to him zealously. Wang Xian nodded. He swung the bag of lobsters and swimming crabs back to school. Phew! Xuejing let out a loud breath as he looked at Wang Xian's back view. He then added Wang Xian on his WeChat immediately with a thrilled face. Boom! Once Wang Xian returned to his room, he threw the lobsters and the swimming crabs into a basin. Then, he looked at the family membership card of Summer Sun Resort and that $10 million check. I'll bank in the money first. The time was 4 p.m. Wang Xian placed the family membership card into his wallet and headed out with the check. He rode his Harley motorcycle to the nearest bank. After depositing the check, his balance had broken the $20 million mark. Such a young age with $20 million assets. Sigh. Wang Xian tossed his bank card into the air, as if he was some big shot before he got back on his motorcycle. Then he bought new utensils, sauces, etc. when he was at the supermarket. After everything was done, it was already past 5 p.m. Wang Xian took out his phone and dialed Guan Shuqing. Hello, Wang Xian. Upon receiving Wang Xian's call, Guan Shuqing, who was upset with her father's call earlier on, turned gleeful. Are you free tonight? I got some lobsters and swimming crabs. Want to do some outdoor cooking? Wang Xian asked Guan Shuqing with a grin. When Guan Shuqing treated him to dinner last night, he told her that it would be a seafood feast from now on. Tonight? Sure. Are there any huge lobsters? Asked Guan Shuqing smilingly, who brightened up her eyes when she heard Wang Xian's question. Of course. I still have big lobsters and some swimming crabs. I'll change the menu for you a few days from now, Wang Xian chuckled and replied. Hee, then I shall not stand on ceremony with you. From now on, I'll get to have great food from the nouveau riche. Guan Shuqing could not hide her happiness from her face. Sure, no problem. Come to Eastern Hill after work. Wang Xian nodded. Okay. Guan Shuqing nodded and hung up with a face full of smiles as she held her phone. Shuqing. Just then, a young man interrupted her imaginings. Her? Director Zhou. Guan Shuqing spun and quickly called out when she saw the young man. There will be a small gathering tonight. Come along too. It's a celebration for closing the international deal. The young man looked at Guan Shuqing with a tinge of greed flashing in his eyes. Her? Tonight? Director Zhou, I don't think I can make it. I promised my friend to have dinner together. Guan Shuqing was slightly stunned, and she quickly shook her head and declined. She had already promised Wang Xian. Her? Why? The young man frowned. 8 of us from the business operation team and the translation team will be gathering tonight. Although you are temporary staff, you should not miss it either. Come on, Shuqing. We are going to the nearby famous restaurant, first-grade restaurant. But Guan Shuqing had a look of difficulty on her face when she heard his tonality. But I already promised my friend. If I don't go. Are there many of them? Why not this? If there aren't many, you can bring your friend over since all of us are young people in the company, said the young man after observing Guan Shuqing's expression. Just one, but Guan Shuqing knit her eyebrows tightly as she hesitated. No worries. Get your friend to come over. We'll have dinner together since your friend is the top student from the University of Rivertown. In the future, I might go to your school to scout for talents too. Just nice, I can get to know your friend and probably all of you can join my company. The young man gestured with a big-hearted smile as he spoke. Upon seeing his attitude, Guan Shuqing knew it would be a slap in his face if she continued to decline. Hence, she hesitated and nodded her head. I'll ask my friend. Okay, give your friend a call. Shuqing, you can't miss the gathering tonight. The young man chuckled while straightening his suit. Okay. Guan Shuqing nodded. She fished out her phone and walked to the side. The young man drew his lips. It's better if her friend is a girl, but it doesn't matter even if it's a guy. He smiled confidently before heading back to his office. Wang Xian wondered why when he saw Guan Shuqing's number on the phone, when they just ended the conversation not long ago. Why do you call again? He questioned. Wang Xian, there's a gathering with my colleagues tonight. My boss wants me to go no matter what, Guan Shuqing said. Before Wang Xian could say anything, she quickly added on, I already turned my boss down, but he asked me to come with my friend. Why don't you join us as well? I don't think this is right, is it? Wang Xian was slightly stunned by her words. Straight away, he shook his head and rejected her. This is your company's gathering. It would be inappropriate for me to go. Wang Xian, can you come over? I've only been here for 2 days, and I'm not very familiar with the rest of the colleagues. Besides, I won't be working here for too long. If you are here, I can have someone to talk to. The venue is at the first-grade restaurant near our school. Guan Shuqing dragged her last word out as she seemed to be pleading with him. Wang Xian was hesitant, but he finally nodded his head. Fine. Thank you. When I get my pay, I'll give you a treat. Upon hearing his consent, Guan Shuqing was so happy that she laughed. Still my treat. Wang Xian smiled. They arranged a time and hung up the phone. At most, I'll foot the bill since it's her colleague's gathering. Wang Xian put his phone back in his pocket and shrugged. Since he had over $20 million on his card now, he was full of confidence. Buzz. After he stored his lobsters and the swimming crabs and changed his clothes, his phone buzzed again. Lan Qingyue. Wang Xian opened his WeChat and was shocked to see her message. Lang Qingyue asked me out for dinner. Looks like I'm quite popular after all. He touched his face as he was feeling himself. However, he turned her down with a reply. I'm having dinner with my friend tonight. Sorry, next time then. At the same time, Lan Qingyue was a little uptight as she sat on the sofa in the luxurious villa. This was the first time she asked a guy out for dinner. As she recalled the figure who hugged her, she was looking forward to it while feeling nervous. Hence, when the notification sound rang, she quickly checked on it. Rejected. He actually rejected me. Lan Qingyue was dazed as she looked at the message. She felt something special within her. She did not expect she would get rejected the first time she asked a guy out for dinner. Chapter 36. Buying first-grade restaurant. BZZ. Wang Xian rode his heavy-duty motorcycle towards first-grade restaurant. What he didn't know was that his casual rejection previously had a huge impact on a cold and noble lady. Welcome. When he entered first-grade restaurant, the 2 greeters at the entrance spoke passionately. Table 4. A waitress walked over and asked. I'm waiting for a friend, Wang Xian said to the waitress. In that case, please wait here at the moment. I'll get you some tea. The waitress was well trained and pointed to the sofa at the waiting area, after which she went to get a cup of water. Wang Xian nodded his head and sat to the side. He took out his mobile phone and started playing while waiting for Guan Shuqing to arrive. Clap, 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 clap. Where's Director Lee? At this moment, a group of people appeared at the entrance. A young man asked his question with a smile and a cigarette in his mouth. You guys are? Do you have an appointment with Director Lee? The greeters at the entrance looked curiously at the group of 4 men who walked over. Director Lee was the one who asked us over. Where is he? The young man replied. He scrutinized the 2 greeters and commented flirtatiously, pretty beautiful. The 2 greeters frowned. Director Zhou, your guys are here. The office is a little small, shall we sit here? At this moment, the slightly plump Director Lee walked out from a small room beside the cashier. There was a middle-aged man following beside him. Upon hearing Director Lee's voice, the edge of Wang Xian's mouth arched up. He turned his attention over. At this moment, Director Lee was no longer looking as rosy as he had been in the morning. In fact, he looked a little pale and seemed to be fatigued. The middle-aged man beside him wasn't looking pleased either. Oh, Director Lee, you aren't looking too well. Hee. The young man looked at Director Lee, and it was clear that he was mocking him. I caught the flu in the morning and am not feeling too well. Director Lee walked over with a straight face and invited him into the restaurant. The young man smiled. Together with the 3 other men who came with him, they headed directly to the sofa in the waiting area. Sitting upright, he looked at Director Lee and said, I'm really surprised to have received Director Lee's call. Just a month ago, I invited you over for a sumptuous banquet and requested to acquire your restaurant. However, you rejected it. What's the matter now? Did you change your mind? Yeah, I've changed my mind. I have a better business plan to execute and therefore am preparing to sell first-grade restaurant. Director Lee sat at the side, lifted the teacup served by the waiter and squeezed out a faint smile. Oh, is it? In that case, how much is Director Lee looking to sell it to me for? The edge of the young man's mouth arched upwards. He leaned back on the sofa and seemed to be seeing this as a joke. Let's go with Director Zhou's previous offer, $23 million. Director Lee looked at him and said, What? $23 million? The young man pretended to be shocked. Director Lee, the $23 million offer was when I came to you and offered to buy. Now that you have come to me to sell, how could it still be $23 million? Moreover, the young man paused and looked coldly at Director Lee. I wanted to buy this place, but Director Lee wasn't willing to sell in the past. I just purchased a restaurant just a stone's throw away from here, and am renovating it. I am still intending to compete with you directly in the future. Upon hearing the young man, Director Lee's expression turned ghastly. He replied resolutely, My first-grade restaurant has been around for 5 to 6 years and its reputation has already spread throughout Rivertown. Even if you would like to compete with me directly, we will not be afraid. As long as my first-grade restaurant is still around, your restaurant would also be greatly and negatively affected. Director Lee, what you are saying is that I shouldn't open the restaurant that I have already spent over $10 million on, and should spend more money to purchase yours? The young man looked at him with contempt. It's over $10 million because you bought the building with it. I believe that simply losing some renovation costs to guarantee your business would be a great deal. Director Lee replied with a frown. The young man laughed again. He stared at Director Lee and replied, Director Lee, since I have decided to do it, I'm not afraid of your first-grade restaurant. It's still uncertain who will win in the end, but I can guarantee that your losses will be severe. Now that you would like to sell first-grade restaurant, great, $13 million. If you would like to sell, I'll buy. If you aren't willing, we shall see how it goes. $13 million? Impossible. Just the building alone is worth close to $10 million. To ask me to sell my restaurant to you for $3 million? When Director Lee heard his reply, he raised his voice and his face turned dark. At most $15 million. If you want to sell, then sell. If you will not, you can just sell to others. The young man sat there confidently. With Longxian Restaurant's publicity and strength currently, this would be the most you could get from any other buyer. Upon hearing what he said, Director Lee had an embarrassed look. Just as the young man had said, the profit of his restaurant each year was only $4 to $5 million over the last few years. The asking price of over $20 million wasn't high at all. However, there was a strong competitor coming up along this street. The young master of Rivertown Distant Sea Fishing Group would be entering this business. His family business was in distant water fishing and had ample resources. He would also be able to basically obtain all kinds of seafood. Seeing how this young man in front of him was willing to spend and was daring, it was hard for him to tell who would emerge victorious in their future competition. It would be impossible for him to sell his restaurant for over $20 million. In fact, it was still uncertain if he could even sell it for $17 to $18 million. Despite his considerations, he knew he would be filled with indignance if he had to sell to him for $15 million. Director Li's expression was changing constantly. He was considering all his options, and this incident today was a lethal blow to him. All the fish in his entire fish farm had disappeared without a reason. Fish that were worth several tens of millions had just vanished into the air. At this moment, he had to return the bank loan as soon as possible. Otherwise, his mortgaged home might be taken over by the bank. The only option he had was to sell first-grade restaurant. He was out of other options. The young man sat there confidently and said to Director Li, "I can give you cash. As long as you are willing to sell, $15 million will be transferred to your account immediately. You should know that there aren't many people who can come out with so much cash at one time to invest at this moment. Director Li, it's better if you sell first-grade restaurant. Those who are slightly capable would know that buying first-grade restaurant at the moment might not be profitable. In fact, my brother might even lose from this investment. There aren't many people who can bear this." The 18 to 19 years old juvenile, who was sitting beside the young man, remarked excitedly. He lifted one of his legs and rested it on the other leg in a cocky manner. Looking at Wang Xian, who had been listening to their conversation, he laughed. "Don't you agree with me, pal? Will you buy this place if you have $15 million? The juvenile was exhilarated. He would be in his freshman year when the school reopened and was an incoming student to the University of Rivertown. With his brother's restaurant right here and it being the most luxurious in the vicinity, it would be a fantastic experience for him when he brought his classmates over to show off to them. Just thinking about it made him a little excited. "I will buy." The three words that sounded suddenly from the side shocked the juvenile. He saw Wang Xian had a serious look to him and was instantly stunned, following which he burst into laughter. "Haha, my friend. You will buy. Can you even afford it? All you could do is to fantasize about it. Wake up." "Director Li, do consider the offer price of $16 million. Wang Xian looked nonchalantly at the juvenile and took out a platinum card from the Agricultural Bank of China. One had to have over $5 million deposited in order to get such a card. Although this card might not have $16 million on it, it was still a symbol of one's strength. Capitalism. Chapter 37. I'm the Boss. 1. When the juvenile saw Wang Xian take out a bank card, he was stunned, as his eyes were filled with disbelief. All the people around, including Director Li, looked at Wang Xian with astonishment. The money on the card is sufficient to fork over $16 million. I'll buy first-grade restaurant. What do you think, Director Li? Wang Xian asked Director Li with a smiling face. When they were talking just now, Wang Xian's attention was drawn when he overheard Director Li was going to sell away the first-grade restaurant. At present, he had some money obtained through special ways, but he had no stable source of income. If he bought the first-grade restaurant, he could manage the restaurant in the future. Moreover, he had a great advantage of catching his own seafood if he took over the restaurant. Perhaps it might be a waste of time for him to catch his own, but he could get his subordinates from the Dragon Palace to do it. Till then, his procurement of seafood would be at zero cost. The restaurant just had to pay off the staff wages and the necessary expenses. The business would not lose out. It's 100% profitable. Wang Xian wanted to wait until they left before he discussed with Director Li, who knew the juvenile beside him would lend him a helping hand. What a kind person he was. $16 million, are you really going to take over? The juvenile pointed at Wang Xian in disbelief and asked with a shaky voice. The boy before him was just as young as him. Yet, he could actually fork over $16 million to buy the restaurant. How could this be possible? Wang Xian looked at the juvenile before he fixed his gaze on Director Li. You? Director Li saw Wang Xian and recognized him. With a mixed expression he asked, "Are you really buying the restaurant?" "Of course I will not joke around when it concerns millions of dollars, $16 million. Are you selling or not? If you are selling, we can sign the contract and make the payment tomorrow." Wang Xian nodded with a solemn face. Director Li had a change in his expression before he cast his gaze to the young man at the side. At this time the young man fixed his gaze on Wang Xian. "Young chap, are you sure you want to buy the first-grade restaurant? Think it over again. Depends on the price. If it's too expensive, I'll not buy it. I'm offering $16 million. Aren't you going to counteroffer?" Wang Xian smiled at the young man. Bang! Suddenly, the young man banged his hand on the table. "Think again. If you are buying over the restaurant, be prepared to challenge Longxian Restaurant. When the time comes, don't lose your pants and go bankrupt." Sensing the threat from him, Wang Xian picked up the teacup slowly from the table and said indifferently, "I love challenges. If you want to fight it out, I'm all in for it. But who will lose his pants? It'll not be me." "Fine." The young man stood up straight away. "I can do without the first-grade restaurant. Since you want to have a game, let's do it. Lad, you're still an amateur. If I take over here," Wang Xian stood up slowly, "you will not be my match. Tit for tat." He displayed the shining edge of a divine dragon against his opponents and gave off an invisible imposing demeanor. The young man felt embarrassed by the faint oppression. Fine. You're ridiculous. We'll wait and see." The young man glared at him with a ferocious look in his eyes. "Anytime." Wang Xian looked at the young man with a smile on his face. "Humph. I'll make sure you lose big time." The young man left after he made those harsh remarks as he stared at Director Li coldly. You're doomed," said the juvenile as he jumped up and pointed at Wang Xian with an angry face after he saw his elder brother had left. Wang Xian threw him a nonchalant look and ignored him before he turned to Director Li. People like the juvenile were not qualified to speak to him, except for his brother. "Young lad, are you really buying the first-grade restaurant with $16 million? Director Li did not look at those young people who left. Instead, he questioned Wang Xian again. 100% positive. Wang Xian nodded. Humph. Upon seeing Wang Xian ignoring him, the juvenile walked out, feeling embarrassed. "Brother, that fellow was extremely haughty just now. We cannot let him off just like this." The juvenile caught up with the young man with an infuriated look on his face after he walked out of the first-grade restaurant. "Okay, I got it." The young man brushed him off without any patience. If his younger brother had not provoked that guy, he would not have expressed his interest in buying the first-grade restaurant. If he could take over the restaurant at $15 million, it would be the best choice for him. There was no risk and it was a profitable business. Now he would have to fight it out. Anyway, Longxian Restaurant has completed the renovation. We can open for business soon. Till then. The young man darkened his expression as he thought of that fellow's haughty look just now. Just wait and see. I'll let you have a taste of regret for offending me. Oh, we'll discuss the transfer of ownership at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Back at the first-grade restaurant, Director Li was smiling at Wang Xian. He was already content to sell the restaurant at $16 million. Sure, 9 tomorrow. Wang Xian nodded. I'll get the things prepared first. Let's have dinner together. Director Li said as he stood up. No, it's fine. I'm meeting my friends. Wang Xian shook his head with a smile. Apart from this business deal, he had nothing to chat with Director Li about. Sure, enjoy your dinner. This place will be yours tomorrow. As soon as Director Li finished his words, he looked at his restaurant and sighed as he was unsure if he could make a comeback in the future after selling the restaurant. He walked into the office at the side with low spirits. He would probably never find out that the person who landed him into his current plight was right in front of him. Everything was to blame on his arrogance. Buzz. Wang Xian's phone rang after waiting in the waiting area for 10 minutes or so. Hello? I'm here in the waiting area. Wang Xian received the call and told Guan Shuqing. Wang Xian. As his voice trailed off, he heard Guan Shuqing's voice at the door. She waved at him and walked towards him. Wang Xian gleamed and walked forward to greet her before he saw a group of people behind her. The one leading the group of youngsters was a 28 or 29 years old young man, who was wearing a trendy summer clothes series from Armani. He was 1.8 meters tall and rather good-looking. When Wang Xian was looking at him, the young man was observing him too. A guy wearing Versace on him. His family should be quite well-to-do. Director Zhou narrowed his eyes and observed Wang Xian from head to toe. He raised his eyebrows, but he was not bothered by him at all. In his opinion, Wang Xian was still inexperienced. Shuqing, is this your friend? Hello, I'm Zhou Yuanhao. Zhou Yuanhao walked over and extended his hand to introduce himself with a face full of smiles. Wang Xian looked at him inquisitively. Hello, I'm Wang Xian. Chapter 38. I'm the boss too. Hey young lad. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Yuanhao looked at Wang Xian, extended his hand towards his shoulders and wanted to pat on them. Hee. Wang Xian had his eyes fixed on this young man as he avoided his palm fluently. He had the feeling that this dude was up to something. Zhou Yuanhao's arms stiffened, following which he smiled and said, let's go. I've made a reservation and we can go straight to the private lounge. Misters, this way please. As Zhou Yuanhao spoke, the waitress by the side led the way for him. First-grade house could be divided into 2 stories. The lower level was the main hall while the upper story was where the private lounges were at. First-grade restaurant is a rather famous restaurant in Rivertown. You can get to taste all types of seafood, abalone, shark fin and sea cucumber. Sometimes, there is also precious seafood such as Atlantic bluefin marlin sashimi. Zhou Yuanhao was walking at the front of the pack, as he explained to the group with a face full of smiles. He looked to Guan Shuqing and Wang Xian, who was beside her, and said, Shuqing, your school is around this area. I'm guessing you know about this restaurant. Of course I know about it. This restaurant is known to be expensive. Guan Shuqing smiled and replied. Hey, I came here once previously when a friend of mine was giving me a treat. I have to say that the food here is really expensive. A meal in a private lounge will cost at least 7,000 to 8,000. This is the level of a 5-star hotel. Since Director Zhou is paying today, we are in for a treat. First-grade restaurant is known for its seafood. Although they are delicious, their prices are too expensive. I heard about it previously, but this is still the first time I've come here. I have to thank Director Zhou for your generosity. The 2 young commented with intentions to flatter Director Zhou. Hee. As long as everyone works hard and we do well, such a gathering will be common in the future. Zhou Yuanhao said with magnanimity, although first-grade restaurant is expensive, the food they serve is really delicious. I have always liked their food and often patronize this restaurant. In that case, we've got to stick close to Director Zhou in the future. There aren't many bosses who are as generous as Director Zhou. A girl smiled and said to Director Zhou. Naturally, I wouldn't treat you guys badly. The edge of Zhou Yuanhao's mouth arched up. Guan Shuqing and Wang Xian followed behind and didn't comment as the group arrived at a private lounge. Shuqing, you can sit beside me. Zhou Yuanhao sat at the seat of the host as he spoke to Guan Shuqing, who was just beside him. Guan Shuqing was taken aback slightly before nodding her head and sitting down. She looked to Wang Xian and said, Wang Xian, why don't you sit beside me? Huh. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. The few young men and women took a glance at Zhou Yuanhao and Guan Shuqing before sinking into deep thought. You guys take a look at the menu and see what would you like to have. Come. Just order as you wish. Zhou Yuanhao passed the menu to Guan Shuqing and asked, take a look and see if there's anything you would like. You can just order it directly. It's okay, Director Zhou. I'm not a picky eater and am fine with anything. Guan Shuqing waved her hand and handed the menu back to him. All right. In that case, let me order a few dishes. This sea cucumber porridge with lotus seed is good for the complexion. Let's get a bowl for Shuqing and the ladies here. Zhou Yuanhao looked and spoke to Guan Shuqing and the few other ladies. Our director Zhou is such a gentleman. Hee. One of the ladies laughed and said. That's true. After all, Director Zhou attended a famous university in the UK for 3 years. He's definitely the role model of a gentleman, a young man commented as he tried to get on the good books of Director Zhou subtly. Haha. Zhou Yuanhao smiled. Alright. Let's get a bottle of champagne and white wine to go along with the seafood. Alright, mister, please wait a moment. The waitress by the side nodded her head, collected the menus and walked out of the lounge. Xu Qing, do you have the intention to come to our company to work after you graduate from school? Zhou Yuanhao asked as he poured Guan Shuqing a cup of tea after filling his own cup. Director Zhou, I can do it myself. Guan Shuqing tried to take the teapot and pour for herself in a hurry. I still have 2 years until my graduation. It's all right. You can come over to the company during the weekends or when you have no classes. I wouldn't scrimp on your salary. Our company business is growing larger and larger, and we still need some talents, Zhou Yuanhao remarked. Guan Shuqing was a little tempted. Now that her father had declared bankruptcy, her family conditions weren't too great. Currently, she had to settle her own living expenses. I think it's fine. Shuqing, this is a good idea. After all, the curriculum of university isn't that tight. You definitely could gain some working experience during your free time. This is a good thing. Yeah, just take a look at how well Director Zhou is treating us. It's hard to get a good boss like him. You might not be able to get such a good job even after you graduated. The 2 young men by the side tried to convince Guan Shuqing. This would work too. Guan Shuqing took a look at Wang Xian who was beside her and nodded her head. When Zhou Yuanhao heard her reply, a joyous feeling surged. Haha. Let's welcome Shuqing for joining us officially. As they were chatting, the dishes were being served one by one. Zhou Yuanhao kept trying to chat with Guan Shuqing. As for Wang Xian, he just sat there alone as he ate the food. Shuqing, do you have a boyfriend? Suddenly, Zhou Yuanhao asked Guan Shuqing. This question shocked Guan Shuqing. Her eyes were wavering as she turned her head over and looked at Wang Xian. Zhou Yuanhao saw her action and frowned. His vision fell on Wang Xian as he tried to change the topic. Oh, Shuqing, you haven't introduced us to this friend of yours. This is my classmate, Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing replied immediately. Hello everyone, I'm Wang Xian, Wang Xian remarked. Don't just eat, let's have a chat. Zhou Yuanhao looked at him and squeezed out a faint smile. Brother Wang Xian, your family conditions should be pretty good. What is your family like? Family? When Wang Xian heard him, he laughed. I only have a sister as kin. Huh. Zhou Yuanhao was slightly stunned and shocked. A smile appeared as he continued. I'm sorry to ask about something that I shouldn't have. However, please allow me to say this. Brother Wang Xian, life isn't easy. You should be making plans for life after graduation. Similar to Shuqing, you are from the University of Rivertown. It's clear that you are a capable man. Why don't you come and work for my company? If you work for me, it would definitely be better when you try to look for a job after graduation. That's right. We will be working for Director Zhou in the future, and he would be our leader. Haha. A young man laughed and said. Hehe. It's all right. Wang Xian shook his head. It's better to just enjoy my university life. Oh, Xiao Wang, that's not a good mentality to have. You should be working hard starting from university. When you say you want to enjoy your university life, what are you actually thinking of? I'm guessing it's not playing games and is about finding a beautiful girlfriend. However, you need to be rich to find a beautiful girlfriend. Buying a bag for your girlfriend would set you back several tens of thousands. Similarly, buying clothes, jewelry and gifts would also be in the range of several tens of thousands. As a young man, one should have goals. This would then give you motivation. If you can't rely on your family, you can only then rely on yourself. For example, if you want to get a girlfriend as beautiful as Shuqing, you can't be just giving her a bag that costs a few hundred. Moreover, you can't even get one at a few $100s nowadays. It can't be that you are thinking of bringing her to the canteen for meals all the time. All of these would cost money. If I had a girlfriend as beautiful as Shuqing, branded bags and clothes are a necessity. As for other gifts or even a house or car, these are needed in the future. The company my family owns has just started. Despite that, Our annual profits are in the range of $5 to $6 million. Even so, I feel that my conditions in Rivertown are still below average. Therefore, a young man like you should be looking to start working hard from a young age. Xiao Wang, you can consider working for me in the future. You can still expect to easily earn $3,000 a month in a part-time role. Director Zhou lit a cigarette and smiled. In his words, he had lifted himself up subtly and bashed Wang Xian. Work part-time for $3,000 a month? Chapter 39. I'm the boss. $3,000 a month. Wang Xian wanted to laugh when he saw Director Zhou pretending to be a kind senior, offering advice to a junior. On seeing the yearning in Director Zhou's eyes, Wang Xian finally understood his intentions. Director Zhou wanted to woo Guan Shuqing and regarded him as a potential rival. He must step on his rival when he met one. But he could not do it directly to avoid leaving a negative impression with Guan Shuqing. Hence, he could only give a tall hat to himself and lower the status of Wang Xian indirectly. Be a follower of his? Become his employee. Wang Xian smiled and shook his head gently. Director Zhou, the students in our school are not that materialistic. We can get a bag at a few $100s and date at the school canteen. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, Director Zhou had a change in his expression. He did not expect Wang Xian to be sarcastic about him being materialistic. Director Zhou's eyes glimmered with displeasure. Xiao Wang, you can't put it that way. Campus love is pure and innocent, but you'll leave school and enter society after all. Director Zhou said all this for your own good. Don't take his words for granted. A young man said and frowned at Wang Xian when he saw the expression on Director Zhou's face. That's right. What can you do when you don't have any money? Girls are all looking for rich husbands who dote on them and love them. Too bad I'm married. Otherwise, I'd woo Director Zhou instead. A girl also glanced at Wang Xian. Xiao Wang, you're still young. They had been working in the society for many years, and they could sense something from their boss's expressions. They could tell that Director Zhou wanted to shame him. Naturally, they needed to give him a hand. A hint of sarcasm flashed in Wang Xian's eyes when he heard their remarks. We're still schooling and we don't have many troubling matters. We just need to pursue what we want and that will do. Guan Shuqing spoke with a smile when she felt something was amiss with the atmosphere. Shuqing, you are still young. Listen to me. I'll nag at you in the future, said a girl to Guan Shuqing. She was pleased to see the kindness in Director Zhou's eyes as soon as she finished her sentence. Waitress. At this time, Director Zhou got an idea and called for the waitress at the door. Sir, how may I help you? Asked the waitress who walked over. Do you still have that limited caviar? Asked Director Zhou to the waitress. I'll need to check with the kitchen, the waitress answered with a smile. Okay, please check for me. Director Zhou nodded unconcernedly. Subsequently, he told everyone truffle, foie gras, and caviar are the three most renowned overseas dishes. Caviar, in particular, is extremely precious. The caviar sold in first-grade restaurant is limited edition and costs $4,000 per portion, just enough for 1 or 2 people to share. The taste is superb. I'll see how many portions are available. We can order more, subject to availability. Director Zhou, you're way too generous. The caviar is just too expensive. That's right, Director Zhou. These dishes are enough. Why don't you order for Shuqing? You don't have to waste your money on us, said several sensible youngsters. We will see how many portions are available. Director Zhou was satisfied with them after hearing them. I'm sorry, sir, but our caviar is all out today. Soon the waitress walked over and apologized. Sold out? Oh, is Manager Huang around? Asked Director Zhou with a frown. Yes, sir, do you have any requests? Asked the waitress quickly. Nothing, I'll give him a call. Director Zhou gestured at the waitress and fished for his phone. Director Zhou, do you know the manager from the first-grade restaurant? Asked a young man with surprise. We met each other over a couple of meals, Director Zhou said without any emotion, but his eyes glimmered with arrogance. I still know some people from during the few years after returning from overseas. Director Zhou, you really befriend many people from all walks of life. That would give you the convenience to do anything. A young man at the side was licking his boots. Network is essential in society today, said Director Zhou smilingly as the phone on the opposite side rang. Hello, Director Zhou, how are you? A middle-aged man's voice was heard on the phone. Manager Huang, are you busy? Asked Director Zhou with a smile. Not really, is there anything I can help you with, Director Zhou? How was your dinner today? I'm quite pleased with it. I'm calling you with regards to this too. Manager Huang, do you think you can get some caviar for us? Your staff said it is out of stock, but I have a craving for it. Do you think you can get some for me to host my guests? Haha. Sure, the kitchen should have set some aside. There should be some left. Great, sorry to trouble you, Manager Huang. Director Zhou deepened his smile as he hung up after making a few courtesy remarks. Well, the first-grade restaurant will set aside some every day just in case. There are some left. Director Zhou chuckled. He cast his gaze at Guan Shuqing. Give it a try later, Shuqing. The taste is great. Director Zhou, thank you for your treat. It must be expensive for this meal, Guan Shuqing said with a smile. It didn't cost that much. Perhaps less than $10,000. Director Zhou shook his head. So long as you enjoy the meal today. By the way, where did you and your friend plan to have your dinner at just now? We were planning to cook outdoors at school, Guan Shuqing said with a smile. Outdoor cooking? Director Zhou paused and raised his eyebrows. Such a hot day and you're going for outdoor cooking? There are many mosquitoes outside. Xiao Wang, you're not being understanding. Besides, it is not good for their skin if girls are smoked by the barbecue. If you're treating a girl to dinner, you must at least go for a decent restaurant. What kind of restaurant? Wang Xian noticed that Director Zhou was looking back at him, so he took a sip of water and asked impassively. The first-grade restaurant may be expensive for you since you are a student, but you should at least go to a franchise restaurant for a meal that is around $200 to $300. Outdoor cooking is inappropriate. Director Zhou looked at Guan Shuqing as he spoke. Besides, outdoor cooking is not safe. Shuqing, you better not go. Heh. Upon hearing his remarks, Wang Xian sneered at him. Director Zhou showed displeasure in his eyes when he heard the scornful laughter. Director Zhou, let's dig in. It's getting late. Seeing that Wang Xian was unhappy, Guan Shuqing quickly tugged at his arm under the table. While doing so, her palm was caught in his palm nicely. A current seemed to run in her body, and she withdrew it immediately. Wang Xian peered at Guan Shuqing and chuckled. He did not persist further and laughed, have some food. The seafood in the first-grade restaurant is the best. Oh, then have more food. You might not have any chance for it in the future, Director Zhou jeered. Yes, thanks to Director Zhou for the treat today. Wang Xian drew his lips slightly and nodded. He picked up his chopsticks and continued with his food. Guan Shuqing was relieved when he saw Wang Xian enjoying his food. She hesitated and picked a piece of crab claw. With a smile she said, try this. This is delicious. Sure. Wang Xian looked at her and nodded. Really? I'm afraid you might not have the chance to try it again after this, a young man muttered when he saw Wang Xian's look. The voice was soft but it was audible. However, Wang Xian was not bothered at all. He did not want to quibble with him since they were all Guan Shuqing's colleagues. At the same time, Manager Huang hung up Director Li's phone call and spoke to Director Li, who was clearing up his stuff at the side. By the way, Director Li heard him and said, turn that customer down. After that, go to the kitchen, get the additional caviar and follow me to that private room. We're delivering to someone else. Her? Director Li, who are you giving it to? Manager Huang was slightly stunned as he asked in surprise. Oh, your future boss. Director Li looked at him and said, the first-grade restaurant will belong to this person from tomorrow onwards. You should get to know him first today. My future boss? Manager Huang was surprised. He knew that Director Li had a deal with this person for taking over the first-grade restaurant. But he did not expect that his future boss would be having dinner here today. Okay, Director Li. I'll explain it to the customer. Manager Huang quickly nodded and walked to the kitchen. He would be asking the chef to prepare it with utmost effort. After all, this was prepared for their future boss. Chapter 40. Taking over the first-grade restaurant 1. The atmosphere was a little heavy within the private lounge of the first-grade restaurant. Guan Shuqing felt a little awkward while sitting there and eating. At this point, she could already sense the animosity Director Zhou and the surrounding colleagues had towards Wang Xian. He could also sense that Director Zhou had other thoughts about her. This made her unable to help feeling remorseful for not rejecting the invitation to today's gathering. Bzz. At this moment, Director Zhou's phone rang. He took out his phone and looked at it. It's a phone call from the manager here. It should be about sending the food over. He smiled and accepted the call after explaining. What? No more? Not a single bit is left? When Director Zhou received the call, he asked in shock. I'm really sorry, Director Zhou. We don't have any caviar left in first-grade seafood restaurant as they have been ordered by some distinguished customer, Manager Huang explained over the phone. I will definitely reserve a serving for Director Zhou for your next visit. Forget it then. If it's sold out, so be it. Director Zhou shook his head slightly and hung up the phone. We probably won't get the chance this time. Manager Huang said that all the caviar has sold out. He shrugged his shoulders and said to Guan Shuqing, this time we didn't get it. Next time I'll bring you along to get some. Guan Shuqing smiled and didn't reply as she didn't know how to. Bzz. At this moment, Wang Xian's phone also rang. He took out his phone and saw a phone call from Director Li. He accepted it immediately. Brother Wang Xian, which private lounge number are you in? 203. Is there anything Director Li has for me? Oh, nothing. I'll just come and disturb you for a moment. Just as Director Li finished his sentence, someone knocked on the door of the private lounge, following which the waitress opened the door. Sorry for the interruption, Brother Wang Xian. I'm here to serve you a specialty delicacy of our restaurant. Director Li stood at the entrance of the door as he smiled and spoke to Wang Xian. Behind him was Manager Huang with the plates in his hand. As they walked in, Manager Huang looked towards Wang Xian and put on a radiant smile. Director Wang, this is the specialty caviar of our restaurant. There are 5 servings in the kitchen and I have brought all of them here for you and your guests. Director Wang, you can call me Xiao Huang. I'm the manager of first-grade seafood restaurant currently. The middle-aged Manager Huang kept a very low profile. He carried the plates and placed the servings of caviar on the table in front of Wang Xian. Wang Xian was slightly shocked but quickly smiled and nodded his head. He looked at Director Li and said, Thank you for your kind intentions, Director Li. Please enjoy yourself, Brother Wang Xian. I shall not be interrupting you any further. Director Li smiled at him. Thank you. Wang Xian nodded his head. Director Wang, please enjoy yourself. Feel free to ask for me if there's anything. Manager Huang bowed down. From the very beginning to the end, he didn't look at others and had his attention fixed on Wang Xian. Even as he left, he lowered his stance before turning around and walking out of the room. Director Zhou was dumbfounded and his eyes were opened widely. Just as he was about to say something, he noted that Manager Huang had not even looked over at all during the whole process. Suddenly, he felt a little embarrassed. As for the other young men and women, they were also shocked by what they had just seen. What's the situation? Who were those 2 people previously? That guy who served the caviar said that he is the manager of this place and Wang Xian could just call him Xiao Huang? Is he the same Manager Huang that Director Zhou had mentioned? They quickly turned their heads over and looked at Wang Xian. They saw 5 bowls of caviar beside him with each serving costing $4,000 and a total of $20,000. Moreover, this was something that even money might not be able to get. Even their Director Zhou had failed to order any despite giving Manager Huang a call. Yet, the manager sent over 5 bowls with profound reverence. This? How can this be possible? Isn't he just a student? Guan Shuqing, who was just beside Wang Xian, also looked at him with astonishment. She noticed that she had more and more things that she couldn't understand about him. He was a poor student that had to work part-time frequently to earn his school fees and living expenses in the past. Currently, he rode a heavy-duty motorcycle and the clothes he wore weren't cheap either. However, this wasn't the most surprising thing to her. What really shocked her was the manager's attitude previously, and the free food that was worth $20,000. Wang Xian. You? Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian and had a huge basket of questions to ask him. However, she did not know where to start asking. Let's eat. Let's see how the limited caviar of first-grade seafood restaurant will taste. Wang Xian smiled and passed over a bowl to her. Wang Xian. Why would the manager of this place bring these over? Guan Shuqing looked at the caviar Wang Xian placed in front of her and asked blankly. I bought this place. Wang Xian looked at her and continued. Director Li, who came in previously, is the previous owner of first-grade seafood restaurant. We have reached a preliminary agreement, and I'll be the boss of first-grade seafood restaurant at this time tomorrow. Therefore, Wang Xian smiled. As for Guan Shuqing, she was staring at Wang Xian with her eyes opened widely and filled with surprise. First-grade seafood restaurant. You bought it? She asked again in disbelief. Yeah. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. If you have something you would like to eat in the future, you can look for me. I'll just treat you to it. This? Guan Shuqing was a little dumbfounded. How can this be possible? At this point, a young man sitting by the side couldn't contain his surprise and showed his disbelief. This student sitting right here bought first-grade seafood restaurant? This is first-grade seafood restaurant. How much will he need? $10 million or $20 million? This is first-grade seafood restaurant. How can anyone buy this place with just $10 million? The other young men and women around also showed their disbelief. They recalled what they had said to him previously. I'm afraid you might not have the chance to try it again after this. Thinking back now, they felt a surge of heat over their face. This was a tight slap to their faces. Not only could he try it again, he even bought the whole restaurant. Their attention turned slowly to Director Zhou. They realized that Director Zhou's expression was even more dramatic. His face was twitching constantly and his body was trembling slightly as he looked to Wang Xian. Playing a sucker and acting poor? What an obnoxious person. Director Zhou stared at Wang Xian and had various phrases surfacing in his mind. He gritted his teeth tightly. To be able to buy first-grade seafood restaurant, he definitely had several dozens of millions in assets. As for his family, they only had $50 to $60 million in assets. Moreover, these were all under his father. Wang Xian glanced faintly at Director Zhou before saying directly to Guan Shuqing, I'll be taking over this place tomorrow. I wouldn't make changes to the manpower of this place, but I might need a reliable person to manage the accounts of this place. I couldn't possibly be cooping myself up in this place. Will you come and help me out? When Guan Shuqing heard his words, her eyes flickered. She glanced at Director Zhou beside her and remarked, but I've already. However, when she looked at Wang Xian once again, she still nodded her head in hesitation. All right, since you have asked, how could I reject your invitation? Great. With you helping me out, I'll be saving myself a lot of trouble. Wang Xian smiled. As for Director Zhou, who was just beside her, his eyebrows twitched violently and he clenched his fist tightly upon seeing Guan Shuqing being poached away right in front of him. However, he couldn't just flare up. This young man in front of him was able to buy first-grade seafood restaurant directly. He might have a strong backing. Damn his answer of having only a sister. Who is he trying to fool? At the same time, it's to show deference to someone more senior or with more authority.